Chapter 12-14. The two of them agreed to meet at a small restaurant. In fact, this restaurant was not small, and the courtyard was especially big. The owner had divided the courtyard into many small rooms. It was lunchtime, so it was noisy and crowded. Jin Yunxing had been to this restaurant many times before. Every time he enjoyed the food, he would feel the fragrance in his mouth and cheeks. However, this time he was stunned for a long time in front of the restaurant. The past flashed past his mind and he didn't know what he was thinking. In the past, he would come here happily with his girlfriend. But today, he was here for a breakup meal. In the past, he was happy and full of expectations for the future. But today he only had a withered mood. "You're here, brother Jin?" The waiter was very familiar with Jin Yunxing. "Yes, is there a room left?" "Your girlfriend has already booked it. Is the room in the corner on the right?" "The room in the corner?" Jin Yunxing smiled bitterly. In the past, he would choose the room in the middle every time he came. Looking at the noisy crowd outside, he would feel a little angry. Even if he couldn't book the room in the middle, he wouldn't go to the corner. He would rather choose the hall. But today he booked the room in the corner. It was indeed a breakup meal. It was so different from the past. What did this mean? Did it mean that he had really walked to the corner? That he had reached the end? Jin Yunxing smiled bitterly. "Is she here?" "Not yet." "Okay, then I'll go in and wait for her. Give me a pot of black tea." Jin Yunxing originally wanted to order the green tea that he often drank, but when he was about to say it, he felt that the word green was like an arrow that shot into his heart. He subconsciously changed his words. Okay. Time passed slowly. The sky gradually darkened, and the lanterns were already lit. On the star map in front of the third prince, 7 stars had already extinguished and 8 stars were left. In other words, it was less than half of the star map. As for the precious medicine known as the heavenly star holy water, he had already drunk 4 bottles. The black-robed man wasn't in a hurry. He could only wait patiently. Occasionally he would comfort and advise Jun Changkong to act according to his ability and not be too hasty. Only when one of the stars on the star map dimmed and a yellow light flashed would a flash of light appear in his eyes. It had to be said that this third prince, in addition to being very afraid of death, was also very eager for quick success. Everyone had told him that he didn't need to finish it in one go. After pouring his blood into extinguishing 1 star, he could take a short rest. However, he simply didn't listen. Instead, he was impatient to proceed to the next step. It was probably because of this that he had consumed a lot of heavenly star holy water just to extinguish 7 stars. The black-robed man didn't expect that the third prince Jun Changkong would do this because of the heavenly star holy water's miraculous effects. The 4 times he stopped to consume it, it actually increased his returning profound realm cultivation, which had been stagnant for a long time, by 10%. It was truly an unexpected gain and a great benefit. Therefore, he became more and more convinced of the black-robed man's words. Naturally, he wanted to complete the process of collecting the imperial fortune as soon as possible. What Jun Changkong didn't know was that the black-robed man had gone through a lot of trouble to make such a big move. He opened a hole in the imperial family's chi meridian and extended it here with a formation. He also used a lot of secret medicine to cooperate with the formation. Using the power of the stars, he poured the imperial family's fate into the third prince's body. This series of actions took a lot of effort. His ultimate goal was to use the imperial family's bloodline as the carrier and use the blood as the medium to extract the imperial family's fate and pour it into the star map. Now that he had reached the final step, it was the most important point. Slow down. So be it. It was fine as long as he could succeed. However, this was all thanks to the Feng and Feng clan of the Dao League. If it weren't for these 2 clans coming all the way from Baishan City, Jun Changkong wouldn't have been so pressured. A person like Jun Changkong would never risk his life if he wasn't in a desperate situation. In contrast, the secret medicine that he had given up was worth it even though it was a waste. Under the black-robed man's close watch, a large amount of blood mixed with a faint yellow color that Jun Changkong couldn't see gushed out and poured into the star map. During this process, the 2 of them didn't speak for a long time. Jun Changkong was full of anticipation and impatience, while the black-robed man was very calm and steady. Compared to Jun Changkong's impatience, the difference between the experienced and the inexperienced was even more obvious. The experienced and prudent black-robed man naturally had a calmness that was far beyond an ordinary person's. Success was right in front of him. In just a moment he would be done. On the other side, Jin Yunxing's girlfriend finally arrived at the restaurant in the courtyard. She came late, but she came with someone else. It was a young man with 2 bodyguards. Needless to say, if Jin Yunxing's girlfriend's character was disregarded, then her appearance was rather good. Regardless of whether it was her figure or appearance, she was extraordinarily exquisite, and she was filled with a delicate and pitiful aura. If a woman was given a full score of 100 points, Jin Yunxing's ex-girlfriend would still score more than 90 points for her appearance even though she was just a mortal. If her appearance and figure didn't change after experiencing wealth, and if she added some graceful and luxurious aura, her score would be slightly higher. Facing his girlfriend and that young man, Jin Yunxing didn't feel as restrained as he had imagined. He actually became carefree. Please take a seat. Jin Yunxing said indifferently, I'll be the host for today's meal. I wish you a happy life in the future. When Jin Yunxing saw that his girlfriend had brought this man over, he immediately gave up. However, he also let go of his feelings for him completely. Now that he had completely let go, he became magnanimous. Even though they might not be able to meet again, they should still be friends. Now that he spoke sincerely, he appeared even more graceful. In the cubicle, Li Chenglong sighed and said, She's beautiful and graceful, but she's the root of trouble. The ancients say that a poor man shouldn't marry a beautiful woman. With Jin Yunxing's current situation, he won't be able to hold on to such a girl no matter what. Zhou Xiaoyan said indifferently, It all depends on the person. As long as this girl can hold on, Jin Yunxing can. So, the key to this matter is still this girl. Zhou Xiaoduo's heart stirred, and he reached out to hold Zhou Xiaoyan's hand. Before Zhou Xiaoduo was awakening, even though the situation was slightly different, it was fundamentally no different from Jin Yunxing and the others. At that time, Zhou Xiaoyan and he were clearly not from the same world, but Zhou Xiaoyan had never wavered. Sensing Zhou Xiaoduo's intentions, Zhou Xiaoyan smiled. For a moment, she felt warmth in her heart, and she clasped Zhou Xiaoduo's hand with her slender fingers. She felt peaceful, happy and satisfied. Boss, is this kid's luck really that good? Long Yuxing couldn't help but be curious. No matter how he looked at it, Jin Yunxing was just an extremely ordinary cultivator. At most he was at the Khanate realm. Such a cultivation level was simply too ordinary in the astral souls. Right now he's in the midst of a bloody disaster. There's no way forward to speak of. However, if he survives this calamity, he'll have good luck. It's hard to say how far he'll go in the future, but his luck will definitely be exuberant. Now that we've intervened, the signs of his good luck are becoming more and more obvious. It's considered a lucky hit that changed the trajectory of his life. Since it's already a lucky hit, we might as well give him a chance. Zhou Xiaoduo said, Perhaps we can let him join our company or Gao Xiao's interest was piqued. From what you've said, this kid is valued by you so much that he's caught your eye? Not necessarily. I just admire his decisiveness and foresight. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled. In the end, it's still just a casual move. However, Jin Yunxing has good luck in the future. He'll be of great use. Zhou Xiaoyan, on the other hand, noticed something else. You have a company? Why don't I know about it? Zhou Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong were speechless. Next door. They were also talking about an old and cliched topic. It seems like we're indeed from different worlds. The so-called matching families might be an old rule, but it's not necessarily wrong. It's a good thing to separate as soon as possible, said Jin Yunxing. The dishes were served one after another. Jin Yunxing said indifferently, I don't have much money, so I'm destined not to be able to treat everyone to better food. This is the best I can do. Please don't mind. After all, from today onwards we'll go our separate ways. Perhaps we won't meet again in this lifetime. I won't say anything resentful, but I can't say more blessings to all of you. Please raise your glass. Jin Yunxing raised his neck and downed the wine in one gulp. I only hope that I, Jin Yunxing, will only eat such a banquet once in my life. The girl opposite him had tears in her eyes. Looking at Jin Yunxing's cold face, the hatred in her eyes grew stronger. She said indifferently, That's not necessarily true. In today's society, materialism is rampant. Jin Yunxing, if you don't change yourself as soon as possible, I'm afraid you'll have to eat such a meal many times. That's my fate as well. Jin Yunxing smiled in a carefree manner and wasn't angry at all. He said indifferently, You don't have to worry about me after today. The girl said, I know you hate me. You hate me for being greedy and ungrateful. After all, you paid for all my expenses when I went to school and learned martial arts. Now that I've abandoned you, you'll definitely hate me. That's human nature, so I don't blame you. Jin Yunxing said, You're wrong. I don't hate you. Actually, I should thank you. After all, you're so beautiful and you even spent some time with me. I should be very satisfied because I should have known from the very beginning that we're from different worlds. Being able to spend some time with you is already an advantage for me. Many people probably have the same thoughts, right? The girl paused for a moment and said faintly, Jin Yunxing, let me ask you a question. If I wasn't beautiful, would you still support me? Jin Yunxing said indifferently, what's the point of talking about all of that now? But since you've asked, then I'll answer you honestly. I wouldn't. The girl heaved a sigh of relief and said with disdain, so you've only taken a liking to my beauty since the very beginning. Jin Yunxing smiled and nodded, yet he laughed bitterly and hollowly in his heart. Everyone loves beauty, yet it's actually a crime? But when I first met you, you were wearing shabby clothes, your face was sallow and emaciated, your hair was disheveled, and you were eating vegetables in the market. I really don't understand, how could I have taken a fancy to your beauty? I supported your studies, supported your cultivation, and provided for everything you needed in life. A few years later, you finally expressed your gratitude to me, fell in love with me, and wanted to be with me for the rest of your life. After that, our relationship changed and we became lovers. That's what happened after that. At that time, you were just a little girl who had yet to grow up. What right did you have to talk about beauty? He just watched calmly as the girl he'd raised and protected with his life had finally shed her cocoon and become a butterfly, yet she was about to leave just like that and never see him again. Even though he was unwilling to part with her, there were still some indescribable emotions flowing through his heart. The girl fell silent for a long time before she finally spoke in a hoarse voice, I'm very grateful for your care and support all these years. Please forgive me. I'm just unwilling to accept this. I'm unwilling. I'm more beautiful than most women, yet I have to suffer and suffer with you. Yes, I'm vain. But I can't wait to fight and succeed by your side. Yunxing. I steamed a basket of your favorite meat buns for you before I came. Even if it's... I don't have the face to beg you. I just hope that you can eat a bun in front of me. Perhaps I'll feel that I've repaid you a little. Just as you said, we might not meet again after today. The girl's tears finally fell. All right. Jin Yunxing didn't hesitate at all. He took the steaming hot bag and opened it. There were 6 snow-white buns inside that emitted an alluring fragrance. Jin Yunxing smiled bitterly and said, speaking of which, I was the one who taught you how to make buns back then. The girl said, yes. Jin Yunxing smiled as he picked up a bun and put it into his mouth. The buns are poisonous. Li Chenglong could tell from the next room. He didn't even have to look to guess. You know it's poisonous, but you still ate it. Xiang Bing's eyes widened. You won't die if you don't eat it. If you eat it, you'll poison your kind heart to death, Yu Moyan said coldly. Everyone sighed in unison. In the next room, Jin Yunxing chewed slowly with a smile on his face. Tears streamed down his face as he said softly, perhaps. I'll only eat such delicious buns once in my life. A trace of hesitation flashed through the girl's eyes before she stood up and said, I'm going to the washroom. Wait for me to come back. I'll drink with you tonight. Yes, I'll drink with you tonight. Jin Yunxing smiled faintly as he watched her walk out. Then he calmly looked at the 3 people opposite him. His smile grew wider. What are you smiling about? I'm smiling. The poison has been administered and I've eaten it. She left to create an opportunity for you. What are you waiting for? Jin Yunxing asked with a smile. Chapter 12:15. The young master smiled playfully. Looks like Brother Jin isn't an ordinary person. I'm impressed. Since that's the case, the 2 of you can send Brother Jin on his way. The last sentence was for the 2 bodyguards. A woman who has a change of heart is really ruthless. It's actually cultivation dissolving powder and intestine piercing water. Jin Yunxing sighed and quickly stuffed all 6 buns into his mouth before he said, even though I might not be a match for you, I can't just wait for death to come, right? Life in this world is but a struggle for life. Young Master Qin said, kill him. One of the bodyguards laughed sinisterly and stepped forward. The other bodyguard took out a bottle of corpse-dissolving powder and a big bag. Don't make it smell. Can't you just put it in your spatial ring? Young Master Qin chided. Aren't we just pretending to be dead? Please forgive us, please forgive us. The bodyguard smiled apologetically. On the other side, the life and death battle had already begun. Jin Yunxing's cultivation wasn't high. Coupled with the fact that his heart was dead and he had taken the initiative to take the poison, he was at a disadvantage as soon as they started fighting. However, he used some unknown method to suddenly become more and more courageous. Just as he said, he was fighting for his life. After a while, the wind from his fists became more and more violent. Every step he took was extremely powerful, and it became more and more powerful as he went on. Every step he took had the power to shake the earth and mountains. With the addition of Su Wei's power, he gradually turned the tables and fought with the bodyguard to a draw. This made the three people who thought that they could easily take him down were dumbfounded. Clearly this was beyond their expectations. Jin Yunxing had a solemn expression on his face as he said indifferently, "Perhaps all of you aren't aware of this, but I possess the rare poison soul physique. Consuming poison would improve my cultivation and increase my spirit by 100 times instead. Even that little girl isn't aware of this. The stronger the poison, the more power I can unleash. It's all thanks to her ruthlessness that she gave me such a high-grade poison. Ah, looks like I can drag someone down with me today." Jin Yunxing laughed loudly. "She's asked me many times why I bought so many cheap pesticides and poisons at home and why it's so unlucky. It's only because when I'm very tired, drinking a bottle can make me feel more refreshed. Those pesticides and poisons are no different from refreshing drinks to me. It's just that I'm afraid of scaring her and also afraid that I'll turn into a real poison person, so I didn't tell her. I just want to live a good life and work hard to earn money to support my family. Why do you always have to force me? All I want is peace, happiness, and stability. Why can't I even meet such a low requirement in this world? Her aptitude is not good. I only wanted to spend the rest of my life with her, but I was betrayed. I've already agreed to let go and retreated. Why do you still insist on forcing me to fight for my life? Why?" Jin Yunxing roared softly and he fought even more madly. Every step he took caused the earth to tremble. The restaurant owner heard the news and came over, but young Master Chen stuffed him with a bunch of cash and whispered, "5 minutes." The owner looked at him worriedly, took the money and said, "When the city guards come later, I won't care." "Don't worry. I can handle it," young Master Chen said. At this moment, an earth-shattering sound came from the room. With a muffled rumble, the two rooms that were connected to each other collapsed one after the other. At this moment, Jun Changkong had already dripped his blood to the 13th star. His heart was immersed in the third prince, who was about to be crowned with the emperor's robe and full of providence. He was focused on dripping his blood. Suddenly, the two of them felt the ground around them tremble. Dust began to fall from the sky above the secret room as if there was really an earthquake. "What's going on?" The black-robed man looked at the sky suspiciously. Jun Changkong was also surprised by the change. He said in surprise, "What's going on? This is a business district next to the prince's mansion. Nothing should happen. Even if there is an earthquake, there should be a warning." The black-robed man frowned and his eyes were full of worry. He said, "This secret room has been sealed by the heavenly star sealing array. Ordinary sounds from the outside can't be transmitted in. Similarly, the movements inside can't be transmitted out. But this doesn't include the sturdiness of the secret room. This is the only flaw." Jun Changkong said, "It won't be fine. When I built it, I added a lot of steel plates. Even if there is a disaster, it should be able to withstand the impact of a meteorite breaking through the sky and smashing into the nearby area." "What about the load-bearing capacity above?" the black-robed man asked hurriedly. "To be safe, I added a few layers of load-bearing capacity." Jun Changkong said confidently, "It's all made of reinforced concrete. It should be fine." "It should be fine." The black-robed man was speechless. "Reinforced concrete? If it's really fine, why is there so much dust leaking out? Don't fucking do a shoddy project. That would be a huge scam. Even if it's made of reinforced concrete, it's not worth mentioning in front of the battle waves of high-level warriors. Did you see the construction process with your own eyes?" The black-robed man felt more and more uneasy. "This kind of project. Why do I, a prince, need to supervise it personally?" Jun Changkong was stunned by the question. "What are you afraid of in such a safe place? Didn't it just shake a little and some dust fell?" "Even if there is an earthquake, my secret room can definitely withstand it. Nothing will happen." The black-robed man was even more worried. The ominous premonition in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. "I'm not afraid of an earthquake. I'm afraid that there will be people fighting above." The black-robed man took a deep breath and said, "If there is a conflict between the two sides, one of them has an earth attribute talent or cultivates an earth attribute martial art. It may lead to a great change. Our plan will be ruined easily." "This can't be so coincidental?" Jun Changkong felt incredulous. "There are all kinds of strange things in this world. There are a lot of things that can happen." The black-robed man took a deep breath and said, "Let's speed up and finish it quickly." "Don't worry, let's speed up." Okay. At this time they had already reached the 14th star. There was only one star left. The black-robed man felt that the shaking above was getting heavier and heavier. His heart was pounding and he couldn't calm down. Faster. 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 Suddenly, at this critical moment, there was an earth-shattering explosion. The entire roof of the secret room collapsed. Fuck. The black-robed man cursed. Although it was only one word, the meaning behind it was complicated and difficult to explain. The star map that was about to be completed and the blood river that was flowing into a small stream was smashed by the falling roof. Nothing could be seen. This sudden sense of loss, this regret of failing at the last step, anger and unimaginable, inconceivable and extreme annoyance in his heart. Countless negative emotions gathered together. There was only one word that expressed it most incisively and vividly. On the other side, the third prince let out a blood-curdling scream. He was still bleeding madly, but due to the sudden turn of events, a falling brick smashed into his head. He couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. Boom. The starlight on the black-robed man's body moved freely. He brazenly made a move and lifted the falling brick with his powerful cultivation. Hurry up and bleed. Then he grabbed Jun Changkong's left hand and chopped it off. Then he pressed it on the last star on the star chart and poured his blood into it forcefully. Jun Changkong's scream was earth-shattering. You. What are you doing? Having his hand cut off was completely different from losing blood. As an emperor, no matter what, he couldn't be a person with 5 physical forms missing. No matter how much he longed for a beautiful dream at this moment, he was already certain that the black-robed man harbored evil intentions and had other plans. Who the hell are you? What do you want to do? Jun Changkong screamed miserably. The black-robed man didn't answer. He just grabbed Jun Changkong tightly and sealed all his cultivation. Then he used his true qi to stimulate Jun Changkong's qi and blood. Blood gushed out from the wound. For a moment, the last star was about to be filled. This was the most extreme and last resort. The world was incomplete, and any formation diagram had flaws and loopholes. It would be best if the formation he had set up could be completed perfectly, but if it couldn't, he could still use the extreme method. He already had 14 stars. As long as the last 15 stars also received enough luck and blood, the formation could still be considered complete, and it could also exert 70 to 80% of its power. It was a great fortune and misfortune. However, when the black-robed man was still rejoicing that the formation could be completed in such a way, he heard a cracking sound. A person fell from the sky and coincidentally stepped on Jun Changkong's left arm. That person not only had the strength to stomp down, but also the sudden imbalance of strength. Lu Li's foot immediately pushed Jun Changkong to the side. It should be known that Jun Changkong's cultivation was sealed at this moment, so he was no different from an ordinary person. He fell to the ground with a bang. That person who fell down ruthlessly stomped on his lower abdomen, creating a big hole in his abdomen. Jun Changkong's body suddenly straightened. His eyes were full of despair. The black-robed man screamed. He saw the guy who suddenly fell from the sky step on Jun Changkong's flesh and blood with one foot. The other foot stepped on the star map that had been destroyed to the point that it couldn't be seen anymore. Bang! The star map was directly smashed into pieces. A mass of light suddenly dissipated. Some of the yellow starlight rushed into the man's body. The star formation was finished. Ah! The black-robed man raised his head and roared. He only felt that his heart had suddenly become hollow at this moment. It was the last moment. It was the last moment. If only he had a few more seconds. Bastard. Ah! The black-robed man went crazy. What kind of bastard are you? Chapter 12:16. If he had gone to the extreme just now and forcibly completed the formation, he could still retain 70 to 80% of its power. But now that the last step had been cut off and the star map had been completely destroyed, the black-robed man had gone mad on the spot. Die. The black-robed man cursed with extreme hatred. His roar was extremely sharp. Then he slapped him fiercely. This slap was even more ferocious than the previous heaven and earth shattering. With Jin Yunqing's cultivation, he would definitely die under this slap even if there were 100 of him. But at this moment, a blazing flame suddenly appeared, and a huge hammer suddenly appeared in front of the falling person. The black-robed person used all his strength to slap the hammer heavily with the force of a thunderbolt. There was a loud explosion and sparks flew everywhere. The black-robed man screamed in agony. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that his palm strike, which he was so confident in, would actually land on a huge hammer. And indeed, it was a sledgehammer of a strange quality that was beyond what his palm could bear. In an instant, the force of the reverse impact was completely wrong. His wrist was immediately dislocated from the shock, and 2 of his bones were also broken. What kind of hammer is this? The black-robed man roared in anger and disbelief. If it was an ordinary hammer or even a great hammer that had reached the level of a divine weapon, with his cultivation level, even if he couldn't smash it with his palm, he definitely wouldn't have ended up in such a state. Although he had used less strength, the rebound force was enough to break his bones? This must be a joke. Zhuo Duo had been waiting for Jin Yunxing to escape. As long as he escaped, he would meet Granny Greedy Wolf according to his fate. This was the predetermined result that Zhuo Duo had seen with his manifestation technique. However, he had never expected that this brat would become hot-blooded and use the mixed effects of the 2 poisons to increase his strength several times. He was fighting with young Master Chen's 2 bodyguards so fiercely. Every step he took was thunderous. The more he fought, the more powerful he became. Zhuo Duo was confused. Could it be that there's something wrong with my image technique? This brat's posture clearly showed that he wanted to fight to the death here. This was definitely not a lie. In other words, he had no intention of escaping at all. He was fighting for his life now. He was risking his life. He wanted to drag someone down with him no matter what. This was strange. If you don't run, how am I supposed to find you? Well, not only does this kid have the poison soul body, but he also cultivates the earth elemental art. Right now, his warrior heart is unprecedentedly strong, causing his body to circulate faster than ever. Zhuo Duo was depressed. The others also looked at Zhuo Duo with the same question in their eyes. What's going on? What's going on? Zhuo Duo didn't even know what was going on. Suddenly, just when everyone was puzzled, there was an earth-shattering sound, and the room next door collapsed without any warning. The bottom was actually hollow. Zhuo Duo's heart suddenly lit up, following which, his room also started to tilt and collapse. Zhuo Duo didn't say anything and jumped down from the room. Jin Yunxing really didn't expect the effect of the poison that his ex-girlfriend gave him to be so intense. She was clearly afraid that he wouldn't die. However, the more potent the poison was, the more it would increase his strength and the higher it would be. He risked his life and put his life aside. There was only one thought left in his mind. If my life ends today, then one of you must accompany me on the lonely road to the Yellow Springs. Either you have money or you have power or you have huge forces. But in the situation where I don't care about anything, I'm equal to you in the face of life and death. Perhaps, this will be the only chance for me to be equal to you. So, I won't miss this opportunity. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I'll make you bleed. Jin Yunxing's vital energy and blood surged violently under such an extreme state of mind, and he seemed like a mad devil. He didn't even know how much the poison had strengthened him, and he just fought madly. Finally, when he put his life on the line and stomped down, it finally collapsed. Jin Yunxing didn't know what was going on at this instant, and the only thing he felt was that he seemed to have stepped on something. For the sake of stabilizing his body and maintaining his combat state, even if the ground had collapsed, he still exerted all his strength to stand firmly at the first possible moment. Only then would he be able to continue fighting. Otherwise, the slightest slip would cause him to be at the mercy of his enemies in such a terrible situation where he was weak. Just now, I seem to have stepped on something? But I don't have to care about these details at this moment. They aren't important. In any case, I'm going to die today, so why should I care? What else is worth paying attention to? But in the next moment, an enormous aura suddenly rose up. It was him. Whether it was in the past or now, he was already the strongest he had ever been in his life. It was an absolute power that was difficult for him to come into contact with. Who was it? Was it a profound returning expert or a fairy? In short, it was a super expert that he had come into contact with, or rather didn't know. Just as Jin Yunxing was in despair, a huge hammer suddenly appeared out of nowhere and saved him from the fatal hand of an almighty expert. For a moment, Jin Yunxing felt as if he was in a dream. What he didn't know was that he had just stepped on the hand of a profound returning expert and stomped on his stomach. With his cultivation base that had yet to reach the core realm, he could boast about this achievement for the rest of his life. With a loud bang, everything that had collapsed above was instantly cleared away. When he focused his eyes again, he could actually see the night sky outside. The black-robed man roared and shouted angrily, "Who are you?" Zhuo Duo didn't say anything and swung his hammer over. It was fine to fight, but why did he have to announce his name? Who set this stupid rule? How much of a waste of time was it? An icy cold aura rose up, a sword came piercingly cold, as if it was responding to Zhuo Duo's sledgehammer. It was Zhuo Nian. Her sword was cold and frosty, and its power was not inferior to Zhuo Duo's hammer at all. Li Chenglong and the others also showed up and surrounded the black-robed man from all directions. The secret room was not very big and it was impenetrable. Yu Moyan was the last to arrive. His sword was dripping with blood. That young master, his 2 bodyguards, and that ungrateful girl had all become ghosts under his sword. Yu Moyan hated such ungrateful people the most. Since he had encountered them, he wouldn't let any of them escape. When the girl saw Yu Moyan, her face was full of fear and she looked pitiful. Unfortunately, she had just begged for mercy when Yu Moyan's sword cut off her head and pierced through her heart. Yu Moyan's thought was simple. Since you have no conscience, I'll just cut it out for you. After all, you won't need it anymore. The black-robed man saw that the situation had changed again. He groaned and mumbled something. Suddenly, starlight shone brightly. The moment the starlight shone on his injured hand, the wound healed instantly. The starlight surged and seemed to have increased his strength. He was able to block the joint attack of Zhuo Duo and the others. Even though he still couldn't help but fall into a disadvantageous position, such a battle achievement was already sufficient to shock the world and shock everyone. No one noticed that far away in the sky, a star was shining brightly. Its light shone all around, making the stars around it pale in comparison. It was the Tanlang. With another boom, he slammed his palm on Zhuo hammer again. But this time, it wasn't the black-robed man's arm that was dislocated or broken. Instead, it was Zhuo Duo who felt a tremor in his hand and almost lost his grip on the hammer. At this moment, he was so shocked that he couldn't believe it. This is Granny Tanlang? Zhuo Duo really couldn't believe it. He had asked Mo Xuanyi before. Your master, Granny Tanlang, what is her cultivation level? Mid-stage returning mystic. At that time, Mo Xuanyi said it very confidently and without any doubt. But now, the black-robed man's cultivation level was at the Dao integration pinnacle Dao integration stage. This fact made Zhuo Duo suspicious. Hammer after hammer, Zhuo Duo shouted, "Greedy wolf Granny, you really live up to your reputation." Hearing this, the black-robed man's eyes flashed and he said with a sinister smile, "Zhuo Duo is indeed a prodigy of the generation." While laughing sinisterly, he continued to attack fiercely. More than half of his attacks landed on Zhuo Duo's body. After fighting for a while, his body shook inexplicably and the starlight suddenly scattered. On the ground, Jun Changkong propped himself up and said, "Save me." It wasn't that Jun Changkong was brainless and didn't realize that the black-robed man had ulterior motives. But the black-robed man was his only life-saving straw. With the appearance of Zhuo Duo, Zhuo Xiaoyan, and the others, and the fact that their cultivation levels were far higher than before, he could only rely on the black-robed man to survive and escape this disaster. He hoped that he was still useful to the black-robed man. Most people didn't want to die, and Jun Changkong especially didn't want to die. It was better to live a bad life than to die a good death. He wanted to live as long as he could. The black-robed man's eyes flashed fiercely. With a loud roar, starlight shot out from his body like hundreds of sharp arrows. Starlight arrows shrouded the area in all directions. Jun Changkong, Jin Yunxing, and the others were all within range. As the starlight burst out, Li Chenglong and the rest were unable to dodge in time due to the limited space in the secret chamber. All of them had to use their full strength to defend against it. Everyone felt their bodies trembling. The might of the starlight was something that even Li Chenglong and the rest, who had already reached the sky realm, found difficult to deal with. Fortunately, they were only having a hard time. It wasn't to the extent that they couldn't resist and their lives were in danger. However, Jun Changkong didn't have this ability. The starlight flashed and exploded on Jun Changkong's body. One on his head, one on his dantian, one on his chest. In the instant of the explosion, Jun Changkong's body was blown to pieces by the starlight. Not even his bones were left. Chapter 12:17. Zhuo Xiaoyan swung her sword like the wind, blocking the starlight that was shooting towards her and the 2 starlights that were shooting towards Jin Yunxing. As for Jun Changkong, who was close to her, she completely ignored him and let him be annihilated in the starlight. "All of you retreat. Give me some space," Zhuo Duo roared. Then he pointed one of his 2 hammers to the sky and the other to the ground. With a muffled sound, he had already launched the Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer, intending to kill the black-robed man. He had to come up with a killer move to end this battle as soon as possible. The current situation had exceeded his expectations by too much. It was very different from his initial plan. No matter if it was people or things, they were all beyond his expectations. In particular, Granny Greedy Wolf's own strength was far from what he had predicted. It was as easy as flipping one's hand, and it was as easy as flipping one's hand, and it had suddenly become unshakable. He had to go all out to prevent more accidents from happening. In particular, there were many civilians in the commercial area outside. The power that was like the explosion of the world was limited to a corner and fiercely smashed down. Black and white suddenly burst out from the eruption of the primordial fire divine art. Granny Tan Lang stretched out her hand to block it. Suddenly she let out a muffled groan. However, Zhuxiaoduo's second hammer came across the sky like a meteor catching up with the moon. In the blink of an eye, Zhuxiaoduo had launched 5 consecutive attacks. Granny Greed let out a loud roar and coughed up blood. She let out another angry roar, and the starlight flowing through her body became even more brilliant. Her body swayed and turned into 20-something figures. Each of them shone with starlight and they were incredibly beautiful. Many figures broke out from the encirclement in different directions. Zhuxiaoduo and the others were already prepared for this. Each of them unleashed their highest combat power and intercepted them separately. Stop them. Boom, boom, boom. Countless starlights burst out. Zhuxiaoduo waved his 2 hammers and smashed 4 starlight clones one after another. Zhuxiaonian's sudden burst of cold air froze 3 clones. Then she smashed them with the spirit-snatching sword. Li Chenglong and the others used all their strength to block them, and indeed they managed to block quite a few of them. However, the secret technique that Granny Greedy Wolf used was mysterious and strange. The doppelgangers that they encountered all had considerable strength and were able to suppress Wan Li Xiao and the others. Zhen Piapiao and Du Guyenner, who were weaker, were no match for her. In the end, there were still 3 doppelgangers that broke through everyone's sealing force field and rushed into the sky. They turned into flowing lights and disappeared without a trace in the night sky. All that was left was a voice filled with resentment that echoed through the night sky. Zhuxiaoduo. Just you wait. After a short while, the voice also dissipated in the starlight that filled the sky. Even though they had clearly laid out the best of their plan, they still failed to capture the other party, let alone completely annihilate them. Zhuxiaoduo and the others were a little dejected, feeling that something was not right. Especially Zhuxiaoduo, he deeply felt that this Granny Greedy Wolf was completely different from what he had expected. Even though she was the head of a sect. Mo Xuanyi had clearly said that she was at the middle stage of the returning mysterious realm, so there should be no mistake. She couldn't have taken some medicine in the past 1 or 2 years to be able to rise so quickly. Didn't that mean that Granny Greedy Wolf was a genius comparable to him? This was not scientific. So, what had she been doing all these years? However, this guy's strength was too strong to the point of being ridiculous. Besides, was this Granny Greedy Wolf a man or a woman? After fighting for so long, Zhuxiaoduo still couldn't figure it out. At the other end of the commercial street, far away from the scene of the incident, in a very secluded place in a slum, the dim starlight suddenly dissipated, and a black-robed man fell from the sky and landed in the courtyard, making an extremely heavy muffled sound, and blood flowed out of his mouth. Help me. Come. Several figures flashed and they were all shocked when they saw who it was. They saw a skinny and withered old woman in the black robe. Her face was pale and she was about to die. How could this be? Several people hurriedly protected the old woman and helped her to heal her wounds. They quickly carried her inside and someone stood guard outside. Their movements were experienced and clear. In the secret chamber. How could this be? How could she change so much? It's impossible for there to be such an expert in Shangjing City now. How could she be injured like this? It shouldn't be. Granny had activated the starlight of the Star Lord to the maximum, which was comparable to the power of the peak stage of the imitated Tao integration stage. How could she still be so seriously injured? Who on earth is her opponent? How could he be so strong? I'm afraid that the Star Formation Project is most likely doomed. After a long time, Granny Greedy Wolf finally woke up slowly. Under everyone's questioning, she let out a long sigh. We've worked so hard for so long, but in the end, all our efforts were in vain. The Star Formation Project was about to succeed, but it failed. I was forced to kill the third prince, Jun Changkong. Everyone's face was gloomy. Jun Changkong's life was not important, but the plan that they had planned for a long time suddenly failed. No one could bear it. The Star Formation Project was so meticulous, and it had already entered the final stage. How could it fail? We've studied it for a long time before deciding on it. Moreover, the will of heaven was involved, and all the top experts of the astral souls were attracted to the front line. There was no providence in Shangjing that could affect this plan at all. How could it fail? Even if there's a variable like the poison of destiny, the aura divination and the astrology show that the poison of destiny only exists in ants. It can't affect one's luck at all, so how could it? Didn't the Star Lord do his best to improve your strength? Why are you so miserable? Granny Greedy Wolf was speechless. I had no choice. I met Zhuxiao Duo. Everyone was speechless. This kind of stall. We had clearly planned it well and didn't have any conflicts with them. We even had a relationship with them. How could we still meet them? Could it be that the will of heaven is playing tricks on us? Not only the astral souls but also us? I don't know about this either. Everything happened so suddenly that I was caught off guard. Granny Greedy Wolf looked exhausted. This time, my soul has almost been completely shattered. My 3 souls and 7 spirits, the incarnation of the Star Lord, have all been shattered. Please use the Starlight Pool to help me recover, Granny Greedy Wolf said as she spat out blood from the corner of her mouth. Starlight Pool. Everyone sighed. Granny Greedy Wolf's injuries were extremely serious. If she wanted to recover, she would need to use the Starlight Pool in addition to taking many elixirs. If it were any other day with Granny Greedy Wolf's status, it would be understandable for her to use it. However, if she rashly used the Starlight Pool, she would inevitably lose a part of her foundation in this North-South star formation. At the moment of the future battle for Providence, it would definitely be reduced. However, without Granny Greedy Wolf, this star formation would not even be able to function. The Killing and Breaking Wolf 3 stars had to exist before the star formation could exist. If someone was absent from the Killing and Breaking Wolf team, a constellation would fall. Forget it. This is the only way. Another middle-aged man sighed. I didn't expect such a perfect star formation to have a flaw and collapse completely. Everyone's faces were filled with gloomy clouds. They were all lamenting that they had failed in this round that they were bound to win. The top experts of the astral souls were driven away by the will of heaven. It should be the will of heaven. How could it be like this? And that's Zhuxiao Duo, he was a fucking shit stirrer. Why was he everywhere? What about the star formation map? Did you bring it back? And the 15-star battle aura crystal? Did you bring it back? We clearly felt that the battle aura crystal had formed. Even if there was a flaw and we couldn't bring it back completely, we could at least bring back a part of it, right? Another person asked with a glimmer of hope. It happened so suddenly. I controlled the battle aura crystal and took a risk. I even forced Jun Changkong to use a large amount of blood essence, hoping to turn the situation around. However, it was just an ant that stepped on me and ruined my plan. Everything was so unbelievable, but it was real. The star formation was destroyed on the spot. Granny Greedy Wolf's eyes were lifeless. Everyone was speechless. Not only did they not bring back the battle aura crystal, but they also had to activate the Starlight Pool. Not only did their plan fail, but they also suffered losses. They had lost so much that they were about to lose their underwear. Everyone said that they had lost so much that they had lost so much that they had lost so much. Those words were true. Everyone looked at Granny Greedy Wolf with a complicated expression. They felt that she had given her the wrong name. She must have given it the wrong name. This was really a huge loss. Damn it. This Zhuxiao Duo. How did he appear there so coincidentally? He has the blessing of dragons. What we did this time doesn't match at all. How did he get there? Even the battle aura crystal doesn't have such a method. After listening to Granny Wolf's explanation, everyone was still puzzled. However, it's useless for others to have the battle aura crystal. No one will even recognize it. We might be able to find a chance to snatch it back. Didn't Granny Wolf say that he forced Jun Changkong's blood essence crystal at the last moment? Although he didn't succeed fully, he might have at least 50 to 60% of the effect. One of them said, with the connection of minds as a guide, it's not difficult to determine the location of the object. The situation might not be irreversible. Snatching something from Zhuxiao Duo. It's easier said than done. He survived the heavenly tribulation safely, and his strength is not what it used to be. Granny Wolf activated the battle aura crystal and was no different from a Dao integration pinnacle stage cultivator. However, he was still defeated and severely injured. Who among us can take it easily? Another person sighed. On the other side, Li Chenglong and the others went out to calm the people outside. Zhuxiao Duo casually touched the tattered star map on the ground, only to find that a few small dots had rolled out. What's this? Zhuxiao Duo picked it up and looked around. There were at most 15 of these little things. 14 of them were dark red, and the last one was slightly ruddy. It was still sparkling like a miniature star. It seems to be quite fun. Zhuxiao Duo took it in his hand and sized it up. Mommy. This is delicious. Bai and Jiu appeared in the form of little dolls. They spun around in Zhuxiao Duo's hand, and the 14 dark red little stars all disappeared. Then little Geo stretched out a tender green gourd vine and pinched the remaining glowing one. She picked it up and handed it to Little White. Bai shook its head proudly, indicating that it didn't care. Geo then gave it to Bai with a fawning expression. Take it. Little White was reserved for a while before it finally opened its mouth and swallowed the last luminous object. It patted its little belly without leaving a trace and turned around proudly before disappearing. Geo did a somersault in satisfaction and patted its belly before disappearing as well. I'm full. Thank you, Mommy. Chapter 12:18. Could it be that they found nourishment for the two gourds? But what exactly is this nourishment? Can it be replicated? Why didn't I take a closer look just now? Zhuoxiaoduo was very surprised. However, since he couldn't figure it out, he stopped thinking about it. It was good to get something. Anything that could catch the eye of Little Black and Bai must be extraordinary. Looking at the tattered star map that had broken into dozens of pieces, Zhuoxiaoduo threw a ball of fire at it. The star map immediately burned and turned into ashes in an instant. While Bai and Geo swallowed the 15 crystals. In the secret room of the slums, the 15 people who were discussing the possibility of taking back the Providence crystals, including the heavily injured Granny Tan Lang, all felt a splitting headache at the same time. Their hearts were full of pain. After a while, they all spat out a mouthful of blood. The Providence crystals were refined. At the same time, the 15 of them were dumbfounded. This was really a huge loss. We have to report this to the Lord. A middle-aged man smiled bitterly. The loss this time is really too heavy. Yes, this was no longer a case of going for wool without wool, but a huge loss with no profit. That the third party involved in this incident, Jin Yunxing, was in an unprecedented state of confusion. He didn't know what was going on. He was completely disheartened and didn't want to live anymore. The reason why he fought with his life was just that he was a little unwilling to accept the fact that he was the weaker party. Although the 6 buns didn't poison him to death and even increased his strength, they still couldn't be erased. When he ate the 6 buns, his heart was already dead. It was completely poisoned to death. He fought with the determination to die, stubbornly resisting. He didn't know why the ground suddenly caved in. He also didn't know that there was actually another world below. At the moment of the accident, a large group of super experts that were beyond his knowledge jumped out and shouted for a fierce battle. During that time, there were immortals who wanted to kill him. But there were also more powerful people who appeared to save him. And then they fought among themselves, throwing him to the side, completely ignoring him. It seemed like someone wanted to kill him to vent their anger. It seemed like he had ruined some kind of plan. But when did I ever ruin your plans? All I did was fall from above, and I think I stepped on someone twice, and that ruined your plan? How could there be such logic in this world? It was the kind of special effects that could only be seen in movies, but they kept blooming right beside him. Fortunately, the battle didn't last long. A handsome young man walked to his side with a smile and asked, Jin Yunxing, what are your plans for the future? Do you know me? Where's little Yuer? Jin Yunxing stared blankly outside. Little Yuer? Zhuoxiaoduo was stunned for a moment before he remembered that this was the name of his ex-girlfriend. He smiled and said, he was accidentally injured by the black-robed man just now and is dead. Young Master Chen and his 2 bodyguards were also killed by mistake. What a pity. Another 3 innocent lives met with such misfortune and died. Zhuoxiaoduo said with a compassionate expression on his face when he sensed the heavenly secret orders on the 3 of them and the 5 heavenly calamity-fulfilled luck points flowing back into his body. That. Jin Yunxing looked like he was struck by lightning. Yu Moyan walked over with his sword that was still dripping with blood. He pursed his lips and said, if such a shameless woman doesn't die, are you going to keep her for the new year? Jin Yunxing lowered his head dejectedly. He was naturally very clearly aware that he didn't know better than anyone else that there was nothing worth remembering about that woman anymore. She was just a venomous woman. She wasn't worthy of his feelings, nor was she worthy of his sincerity in life. In fact, it would be a huge waste to give up even a strand of his hair for such a woman. He understood. He understood this principle better than anyone else. However, how could it be so simple to let go just like that? How could he say that it wasn't worth it and forget it from now on? Could he really forget it? Could he really pretend that nothing had happened? The amount of pain a relationship could bring depended on the amount of happiness it had brought. The two were basically the same. Jin Yunxing was heartbroken because of the beautiful memories he had in the past. Thank you everyone for saving my life. Jin Yunxing was visibly dispirited. A rotten aura emanated from his body. He was young, but he was like an old man who had seen through the mortal world and no longer cared about anything. He was filled with the aura of death. Duo smiled and said, "Brother Jean, you don't look old. Are your parents and family doing well?" Parents and family. Jean Yunxing's body trembled, and his eyes regained some color. "It's fate that we meet today." Duo said straightforwardly, "Since we're fated to meet, there are some things that I won't avoid. Brother Jin's current situation seems to be a little unsatisfactory. If you want to rely on your own ability to support your family and make your parents proud of you, I'm afraid it won't be easy. You'll need a lot of time to temper yourself." Jean Yunxing laughed bitterly. It wasn't just difficult. That was simply impossible. Even before this matter he was powerless, let alone now that he was like a walking corpse. "But since you met me, it's a turn for the better. I can give you a chance." Duo said, "Take this note of mine and go to Beijing's Kaiyun printing factory to look for Boss Zhou. I have a batch of goods there and need a qualified supervisor. When he sees this note, he will immediately arrange for you to be the supervisor. I will pay your salary. As for your salary, let's temporarily set it at 100,000 yuan per year. There will be additional bonuses every month, quarter, half a year and every year. 100,000 yuan per year." Jean Yunxing suddenly raised his head, and his eyes shone brightly. His current monthly salary was only a little more than 2,000 yuan. It was 3 or 4 times more than that. It was only enough for him to survive in Shangjing and not starve to death. It was impossible for him to become rich. An annual salary of 100,000 yuan. He had never even thought about it. An annual salary of 100,000 yuan? Are you telling the truth? Jean Yunxing asked. Of course it's true. Because there are no more businesses in Shangjing now, the only position I can give you is the supervisor. There will be other positions waiting for you in the future. An annual salary of 100,000 yuan is just the minimum annual salary of my company. In the future it will be an annual salary of 1 million yuan or even 10 million yuan. Duo turned his head and said, "Xiao, arrange for someone to bring Jean Yunxing over to join the company and record him in the company's files." "Got it." Gao Xiao, smiled. "Jean Yunxing, send me a copy of your basic information." Jean Yunxing didn't hesitate and sent it over right away. He knew that a cultivation expert like Duo would definitely not lie to him about such matters, nor would he use such a trivial matter to play with him. It was because he was not worthy and not qualified. Since he was not worthy and not qualified, then all of this was true. It was really a heaven-sent opportunity. A pie had fallen from the sky. Working hard is the best reward for me. I admire your character and value your character. Remember to use all your hard work today and the future. Duo patted him on the shoulder. Do your best. Don't disappoint me. Yes, boss. The cleaning was almost done. Everyone left the secret room. The moment they went out they saw a mess. Jean Yunxing in particular, looked at the decapitated corpse of his ex-girlfriend, young Master Qin and the 2 bodyguards. He fell silent for a long time. Finally he turned around and left. Aren't you going to collect her corpse? After the government is done with it, I'll go and claim her corpse. I'll bring it back and bury it properly. I'll change her into the shabby clothes she was wearing when I picked her up back then. This way, she'll still be the timid, cowardly but pure and kind girl from back then. All the filth and evil, all the beauty and betrayal. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Jean Yunxing left in a carefree manner. Duo believed that after the case here came to an end, Jean Yunxing would definitely go and claim the woman's corpse. He would definitely do everything he said. Does he really have such great potential in the future? Is it worth it for you to personally recruit him? Gao Qiao looked at Duo. Duo smiled. Actually, potential is secondary. Duo said softly, I just want to do some good deeds for these people who were betrayed in the end. I want to try my best to maintain some social justice. There's a saying that good people will be rewarded. A good person should be helped by a noble. No one can be a noble, so I'll be the one. It feels good to be a noble. Duo smiled faintly. This was the first time Gao Qiao saw Duo like this. She suddenly felt a subtle sense of respect. Xiaonian lowered her head, but a sweet smile appeared on her lips. Such a puppy. She really wanted to give him a kiss. Everyone returned to the camp and continued to cultivate. Through this battle, everyone felt that there was a lot of danger. This was only one of the 15-star sects, but the leader of one of them was already so powerful. So many of them worked together, but they still couldn't stop her. This kind of strength was truly shocking. We're still too weak. Everyone thought so. Even Zhuo Duo felt the same way. If this continues, our chances of winning in this heavenly Dao array are really not high. Let's work overtime and train hard. Zhuo Duo made a decision. However, before training hard, Zhuo Duo needed to go to a place and find someone. Emotionally. He needed to seriously ask Granny Greedy Wolf, what was her cultivation? Chapter 12:19. What? You're saying my master's cultivation base has reached the Dao integration stage? How is that possible? Mo Xuanyi was completely stunned by the news brought to him by Zhuo Duo. His eyes were as round as saucers. If his master's cultivation base was at the Dao integration stage, then what was there to worry about in the Stargate competition? One had to realize that Mo Xuanyi had seen his master lose to the seniors of the other Stargate sects more than once, and he had even been injured in the process. His master's cultivation base. There was no way he was at the Dao integration stage. This was something that Mo Xuanyi dared to guarantee with his life. Zhuo Duo asked a lot of questions and Mo Xuanyi answered all of them in detail. In order to be safe, Zhuo Duo called Fang Yinhua. What's the cultivation base of your senior sister? My senior sister? That old witch. Nonsense. What's her cultivation base? Returning profound intermediate stage. She's slightly stronger than me by a hair. You really dare to say that? When your senior sister was at the returning profound intermediate stage, you were only at the cloud transformation pinnacle stage. How can you say that she's only a hair stronger than you? Cough cough. Young master boss, let me tell you. Ever since I started following you, this little one's cultivation has been steadily increasing. Right now, I'm at the middle stage of the return profound realm. Perhaps I'm stronger than her by a hair. With her strength, she hasn't moved for a long time. I know that this is definitely because of young master's protection. This little one's loyalty to you is as clear as day. Fuck, you still have the face to talk nonsense? Do you have any sense of shame? Hee hee, young master is wise and mighty, open and above board, and your subordinates are all elites. How can there be one or two people without any sense of shame? If everyone is open and above board, it doesn't seem too good, right? Someone like me can accompany young master in playing cheap. Fuck off. By the way, how's your assistant doing? Guanshanha? I'm quite capable. I'm good at management, sales, social relations and so on. My cultivation has also improved. That's why young master's subordinates are all elites. Stop, you have to work harder. I have to take the test when I go back. Zhuo Duo understood Fang Yinua's character very well. She was a typical salted fish. What's more, it was a salted fish that had already been cooked. He wouldn't move if he could. If he didn't give Fang Yinhua enough pressure, it was very likely that Fang Yinhua would sleep until he died. In terms of salted fish, Zhuo Duo felt that he was already an expert. He yearned to win his life by lying down, but compared to Fang Yinhua, he paled in comparison and was inferior by more than one level. This fellow was so steady that he didn't move at all. Don't worry, young master. I will definitely work hard, even harder. Also, I just recruited someone today. He's currently carrying a small burden in Shangjing. When you're free, you can come and guide him. This kid still has some potential. Cough cough. Young master, I'm afraid I can't go to Shangjing for the time being. There are too many acquaintances there now. It's bound to be awkward if we meet. What awkward? You're just afraid that those people will beat you to death, right? You're a traitor. I'm abandoning the dark for the light. I'm not afraid of them. It's just that we're old friends. If we really meet, it's not safe no matter how I deal with them. Forget it. You can come back after this. Alright, young master. I'll remember that person's contact details. If necessary, I can send him back to Feng Hai to report. Didn't you say that he has a mission? Feng Hai is our headquarters. It's only right for him to report back. Fang Yinhua had made up her mind. She wouldn't come to Shangjing no matter what. It was too dangerous. Zhuo Duo was speechless. Fang Yinhua was so steady and cautious that it had reached the point where all the bacteria in his body were present. After hanging up the phone, Zhuo Duo was finally certain. Granny Greedy Wolf's cultivation base was only at the intermediate stage of the mystic returning realm. Even if she had made some progress, she would at most be at the advanced stage. Although the powerful combat strength she had displayed was at the pinnacle stage of the Dao integration stage, it wasn't the true pinnacle stage of the Dao integration stage. No wonder I only sense strength but not power. Even though I'm using brute force to resist brute force, I'm still able to contend with her. If she's really a Dao integration stage cultivator, there's no way she can do this. Zhuo Duo was deep in thought. If that's the case, then the situation is much easier to deal with. However, improving my cultivation base and strength is still my top priority. I can't relax in the slightest. On the afternoon of the third day, Jin Yunxing brought 2 people with him to deliver the Tianji orders that had been produced in the past 3 days. A total of 250 million. This number was much higher than Zhou Xiaoduo had expected. At this moment, Jin Yunxing seemed to be surrounded by a large entourage. He even brought 2 bodyguards with him. In the past 2 days, Jin Yunxing felt like he was dreaming. He was only a supervisor for young Master Zhou and wasn't even an official employee. However, the treatment he received was beyond his wildest dreams. As soon as he arrived at the printing plant, he was treated like a god by the boss. He was just a supervisor. Was he that important? Just as Jin Yunxing was feeling puzzled, someone came to the office of the head of the martial arts department. The first secretary came in person and started a friendly talk with Jin Yunxing in an amiable manner. His attitude was so humble that it was beyond imagination. After that, a few housekeepers from the top 5 families in Shangjing came in person. It was said that they wanted to do some printing business. However, before they could do anything, they all became friends with Jin Yunxing. Furthermore, they were extremely respectful to Jin Yunxing. Their attitude was so good that it made one's hair stand on end. Jin Yunxing was even sure that these people wouldn't be as respectful to the crown prince as they were to him. Why was that? Even though he repeatedly explained that he had just started working and wasn't even considered an official employee, he repeatedly rejected and resolutely refused. But in the end he still received a lot of gifts in a days. It was normal for his desk to be piled up with gifts. What was even more outrageous was that those gifts were piled up in a spatial ring. Would you believe such a ridiculous thing if it were you? Spatial ring. Before this, Jin Yunxing had heard of it for a long time. However, he didn't even think about whether he could afford it in this lifetime. Because he definitely couldn't afford it. Moreover, even if he could afford it, with his small body he would be a source of trouble. He would be coveted by others and would easily bring harm to himself. But now, such a magnificent object had been reduced to a device for storing things. Even though the purpose of a spatial ring was to store things. After that, the head of the martial arts department asked his secretary to bring over a piece of calligraphy, saying that he had specially written it for him to encourage him. To Jin Yunxing, be neither arrogant nor rash, never forget your original intentions. At the bottom was Minister Ding's signature and seal. It was framed. Needless to say, just the word fortune alone was enough to become a protective talisman for any official on the continent. As long as there were no major problems, they wouldn't have to worry for the rest of their lives. Furthermore, he didn't even know how the secret of his poison soul physique had been exposed. Then he received a lot of poisons. They were arranged in order from the lowest to the highest. Each set had a total of 300 types of poisons. Now he had more than 30 sets. I need them for cultivation. Why are you being so polite? It's not worth mentioning. It's just a small matter. If Brother Jean is being polite, it'll be a slap in the face. Brother Jean, if you have time, do us the honor of having a drink. That's the best reward for me. Jin Yunxing also asked, why is that? However, these people all said the same thing. Young Masters was said that good people should be rewarded. Brother Jean is a good person. Naturally, there will be benefactors helping you. This is the reward for your kindness. There's no need to be surprised. Jin Yunxing didn't dare to accept any of these resources. In fact, he was scared to death. He was just an employee with an annual salary of 100,000 yuan. He hadn't even been promoted to a full-time employee. However, he received gifts worth more than 1 billion yuan in less than 2 days after he took office. What kind of madness is this? Hence, he called Gao Qiaoer to report. Gao Qiaoer returned the call while she was cultivating. After hearing the news, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, she didn't think much of it. After all, she knew the source of all this. However, she didn't dare to act on her own. Hence, she asked Zhou Xiaoduo. Don't worry about it. Just deal with it yourself. Let Jin Yunxing use this time to improve his strength. How could Zhou Xiaoduo be interested in such trivial matters? Besides, wasn't one of the reasons why he gave this position to Jin Yunxing was so that he could improve quickly? If he really only needed a supervisor, why would he go through so much trouble? Why would he specially arrange for him to be in Shangjing? Wasn't it so that the resources of these large families could be used to nurture Jin Yunxing to the maximum extent and reach the stage where he could take charge of things as soon as possible? This kind of thing should be carried out by sensible people. He only needed to place Jin Yunxing in a good position. As for how far Jin Yunxing could go in the end, it would depend on him. Young Masters was said that you don't have to hand it over. What others give to you is yours. However, Young Masters were also said that the master can show you the way, but the cultivation is up to you. It depends on your strength and ability. How much you can improve during this period is also a test for you. After receiving Gao Qiao's reply, Jin Yunxing was dumbfounded. Become a billionaire just like that? A few days ago, my girlfriend left me for the young master of a family with a net worth of over 100 million. Now, I'm just using the resources I have to exchange for money. It's enough to smash that family to death. If you had known earlier, would you still have left me? Jin Yunxing chuckled miserably. So this is life. It's really amazing. I've often heard of women who look down on their husbands and make a fuss until the world collapses. In the end, they finally get a divorce or break up. In the end, the day after the divorce, the husband wins the lottery. This is tens of thousands of times better than winning the lottery. Life is like a play. It all depends on who's writing the play for you. Chapter 12:20. Jin Yunxing knew that he had really met a benefactor. He could control the world with a flip of his hand. In the blink of an eye, a person's fate would be completely changed. This kind of opportunity could only be encountered by chance. Everything that had happened to him was because of young Master Zhua. You treat me like a national scholar. What should I do? I don't know anything else. I don't understand. Jin Yunxing picked up a bottle of poison and opened the lid. He sighed softly and murmured, I only know that a gentleman will die for his bosom friend. In the other clans. Have you given him the item? Yes. But Jin Yunxing doesn't seem to dare to accept it. He didn't pay attention this time. He might return it tomorrow. You must make him accept it? Yes. You must build a good relationship with him? Yes. Patriarch, who is this person? There's nothing special about the file. Ordinary is good enough. You don't have to worry about the details. You only need to know that it might not be beneficial for us to build a good relationship with him. However, if you bully him, our clan might be gone. That's the benefit. Hiss. Similar conversations were taking place in the other clans as well. This included the Yu clan, the Nian clan, and so on. These were all thousand-year-old foxes. Zhou Xiaodu's intention of letting Jin Yunxing stay in Shangjing so openly was obvious at a glance. Those who were qualified to know Zhou Xiaodu's identity naturally wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. As for young Master Chen's clan, the patriarch was furious that his son had been killed. He wanted to settle the score with Jin Yunxing, the culprit. If he didn't bring that little bitch to Shangjing, would my son have been charmed? If my son hadn't been charmed, would he have died today? Jin Yunxing has committed a heinous crime. Capture him. I want him to die a horrible death. I want him to regret being born in this world. Then, within 15 minutes after the patriarch of this small clan made his grand declaration, all the businesses related to the clan were investigated. There were no exceptions. Hygiene standards were not up to standard. Still. Fire safety standards were not up to standard. Still. Food standards were not up to standard and harmful to health. Still. Arrest. Tax evasion. Arrest. How dare he commit an illegal act? It turned out that there was a murder case. This was serious. Dig deeper, dig deeper. My God, there are some antiques from the Wu people at home. Betraying the country, the whole family is in jail. After that, this small clan was completely uprooted within a day. After that, someone even sent a copy of the report to Jin Yunxing. Jin Yunxing was completely shocked. What kind of godly development is this? I really didn't want to be so ruthless. Unlike Jin Yunxing, who had risen to the top in a single bound, the Wang family's strength had shrunk again and again during this period of time. The attitude of the upper echelons towards the Wang family had also grown worse and worse. Their malice was practically undisguised. The Wang family's current attitude was to grit their teeth and endure. There was no other way. He could only endure it now. As long as he could get through this period of time, things would take a turn for the better. At that time, if there was a turning point, it would be a good opportunity for the clan to prosper and shine for generations to come. On the contrary, it would be better for them to suffer the calamity of being overthrown. However, it was still better than having their flesh cut with a blunt knife. Every moment was unbearable. Fortunately, they only had less than a month left. However, it was truly very difficult. The Wang family had cancelled almost all of their foreign affairs activities and endured bitterly. However, every once in a while, someone from the military would come knocking on their door. The front lines are tight. As a clan of the God of War, your Wang family's high-end combat strength needs to be transferred to the battlefield to continue the glory of the God of War. In the face of such a request, no matter how hard the Wang family tried, they couldn't reject it. Every time they came, at least 3 to 5 people would be sent to the battlefield. No matter what, they had to give an explanation. However, every time they sent people out, the Wang family felt as if a knife had been gouged out of their hearts. Because the Wang family members who were sent to the battlefield previously had all died in battle. There were no exceptions. Not a single one of them was left behind. In the end, only a notice of death and a jar of ashes were returned. The military repeatedly explained that the military was in the process of verifying the merits. After this period of war was over, they would naturally determine the merits. The statement was also normal. After every war, the compilation of all kinds of achievements, how to give an explanation to the soldiers who died in battle, and how to give an explanation to their families, none of these could be decided in a short period of time. However, the Wang family felt that something was wrong. This was too wrong. When your military merits are verified, will our Wang family still have any? Wang Han could no longer sit still at home. However, he knew that he couldn't act rashly. He couldn't act rashly. He didn't dare to act rashly. He also knew that he had already become the target of public criticism. If he could not act, then he wouldn't. If he did, then he would definitely make a mistake. However, his heart felt as if it was being fried in oil. It really made him unable to eat or sleep in peace. As time passed and the situation continued to worsen, he couldn't help but feel regret in his heart. Logically speaking, at least from Wang Han's point of view, this matter shouldn't have reached such a level. However, what was the reason for this? Why did the Wang family become the target of public criticism? The god of war family's 10,000 years of reputation and monstrous merits actually couldn't suppress the commotion caused by some small characters, a group of ants. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have done it. At this moment, the core members of the Wang family were having a secret meeting in a secret room. Everyone's face was dark and gloomy. Who can tell me what exactly is going on? Up till now, every aspect of the situation is filled with bizarre strangeness. Wang Han's face was filled with confusion. The Yu family, the Nian family, the 4 great generals' families, and a few ministers should know something. Even the emperor should know something. But the more they know, the more distant they are from us. No, it's more appropriate to say that they are enemies. There must be a key point in this, a key point that we don't know about. And the fatal point that caused us to sink so deeply into the mud and be on the verge of despair should be this key point. But what exactly is the problem? Even if He Yuanyue is Lu Yingfeng's youngest daughter, even if the Lu family is united and won't rest until we are dead, how can a mere Lu family create such a huge commotion? It doesn't make sense. Preposterous. Sort it out properly. Sort it out from the beginning. Wang Zhong sat at the side with his head lowered. A few months ago he still had a head of thick black hair. Now both sides of his temples had turned white, and he even looked a little senile. Big brother, there's no need to sort it out. I've always felt that. This time, it should be the minister who made the move. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to create such a huge commotion. Wang Zhong said faintly. What did you say? The minister made the move. Everyone in the Wang family was shocked when they heard this, and their faces all changed color. This was a person's name and a tree's shadow. Just a name alone was enough to intimidate many. As long as you think about it, there's nothing you don't understand. Some things, even if we don't think about it, it doesn't mean that it won't happen. Wasn't the incident at the beginning of the incident caused by Qin Fangyang? When the minister went to the ancestral dragon martial arts festival, he clearly said that Qin Fangyang was his lifelong friend. Wang Zhong sighed. Although the minister didn't personally deal with it, he still found out a few clans. At that time we thought that it had come to an end and it was just a warning. Little did we know that it was just the beginning and there would be more to come. In fact, the minister's attitude was already clear. It's just that we were still holding on to hope and were unwilling to give up. Also, if it wasn't for the minister or the emperor, with the power of our Wang family, we wouldn't have been unable to find out any news until now, right? To be able to keep such a tight lid, how could there be no top forces involved? So many clans know about this. But we don't know anything and have been kept in the dark all this time. What does this mean? It's just that this level of secrecy. In the entire continent, who can silence the entire continent with just one sentence? Until now, our Wang family can't even find out the truth even if we want to. What does this mean? Wang Zhong sighed and said, Big brother, I said before that this Suishao duo might have something to do with the minister. You didn't believe me and listed all the evidence and insisted on your original intention. That's why we fell deeper and deeper. Now, even though we still can't find out anything but all of this, isn't it more obvious? Wang Han's face suddenly drained of blood. No. This is impossible. Don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. This is the truth. Wang Zhong raised his head, revealing a dead look in his eyes. Just 2 nights ago, Zhou Xiaoduo and the others got into a big fight in the business district. Although we don't know who the opponent was after that incident, Zhou Xiaoduo and the others just left. After that incident, there was nothing to do with Zhou Xiaoduo at all. Naturally, there would be someone to clean up the mess. Is this normal? After causing such a big commotion, there was no investigation and no one questioned. Is this normal? Even if he's a prince. After such a thing happened, even if others don't investigate, His Majesty should at least ask, right? However, Zhou Xiaoduo's side had sunk a large area of land, and no one asked about it. Is this normal? Wang Zhong sneered. If this isn't enough, then I have more. What else? Just that night, after Zhou Xiaoduo finished causing trouble, he recruited an employee called Jin Yunxing. Wang Zhong smiled bitterly. He's just a little ant with a Xiantian cultivation. Zhou Xiaoduo appointed this guy as his supervisor. He's in charge of supervising the sales of a printing factory, and his annual salary is 100,000 yuan. Everything seems normal, right? But since 2 days ago, this Jin Yunxing suddenly became very popular. Minister Ding personally wrote a calligraphy piece, framed it and sent it over. He said it was a gift, but it was also a warning or a warning. The content was, "Don't be arrogant and don't forget your original intention." The meaning is very clear, isn't it? Don't let down Zhou Xiaoduo's hopes. Just this kind of thing. A supervisor of a Zhao's printing factory was personally inscribed by the Minister of State Martial Arts? Is this normal? Chapter 12:21. After that, the Yu family, the Nian family, the Dongfang family, the Nan family, the Wu family, and the Lu family all sent their stewards to meet Jin Yunxing by chance or to do some business at the printing factory. In short, they all tried their best to establish a relationship with Jin Yunxing and even gave him gifts. And their attitudes were extremely humble. Which one of the stewards of these families is an ordinary person? Isn't any one of them more impressive than the patriarch of an ordinary family? Even the leaders of the various departments with real power in Shangjing have to smile and be amiable when they see these few housekeepers. However, these people are all smiling and being amiable to a Khanate realm cultivator like Jin Yunxing. Is this normal? The small family with the surname Chen who stole Jin Yunxing's ex-girlfriend was completely uprooted today. All kinds of checks were carried out and they rushed in like wolves and tigers. In the end, they were charged with treason. Is this normal? However, Jin Yunxing, who is the most connected and should know the most, was the last to know. He's almost the same as the ordinary people. Why do you think this is? What? For Jin Yunxing? Jin Yunxing is just a poor boy with a simple background. He's only a Khanate realm cultivator. Is it worth it? Then why? It's none other than Zhou Xiaoduo. It's because Zhou Xiaoduo has clearly taken Jin Yunxing as one of his own. Jin Yunxing is now Zhou Xiaoduo's subordinate and might even become a trusted aide in the future. That's why these people are doing this. Isn't this speculation the truth? Jin Yunxing is the only subordinate of Zhou Xiaoduo in the astral souls on the surface. He's no different from a target. So much so that everyone rushed in. Then why? Why else? It's all for Zhou Xiaoduo. Do you still want to ask who Zhou Xiaoduo is? Why do these great families have to curry favor with his subordinates? Wang Zhong smiled bitterly and said, "Big brother, if it's not that you haven't thought of this, you don't deserve to be the patriarch. It's just that you don't dare to think in this direction and don't want to think in this direction. That's all." Wang Han's face turned pale. For a moment, the secret chamber was so quiet that not even the sound of breathing could be heard. At this moment, even if a needle were to fall, it would probably cause a thunderous effect. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the patriarch's response. So Zhou Xiaoduo is really related to the minister. Wang Han's lips trembled. At this moment he felt as if all the bones in his body had been pulled out. Not only is there a relationship, I'm afraid it's not just a normal relationship. Wang Zhong smiled miserably. Big brother, our Wang clan. This time we have really bumped into the gates of hell. Everyone became more and more dumbstruck like cicadas in winter. This was all because of Zhou Xiaoduo. This kid's luck was the best among the younger generation, and no one could surpass him. Therefore he was the only one who could pull this off. Therefore Qin Fangyang was unlucky. He attracted Zhou Xiaoduo, and then He Yuanyue's tomb was dug up. It was also because of Zhou Xiaoduo. Then Zuo did come because of this. However, ever since this kid came to Shangjing, the whole situation suddenly took a turn for the worse and it was out of control. Because of him, it was all because of him. Qin Fangyang, Zuo mentor. The minister's close friend. Yuanyue, Zuo mentor. Wang Han groaned in disbelief. Perhaps he was still holding on to a sliver of hope as he said, "Our luck can't be that bad, right? Is it really related to the minister?" Wang Zhong smiled miserably and was speechless for a long time. You could never wake up a person who was pretending to be asleep. Until now, the patriarch was still hoping for a fluke. How could he be saved? There's no need to investigate this anymore. We can't find anything. Now, in the entire Astral Soul's mainland, the entire country, and the high-ranking aristocratic families, only the Wang clan knows about this. Wang Han took a deep breath. After a long time, he took out his phone and said, "I'll make a call." He dialed a number. Beep beep beep. The call went through but no one picked up. Wang Han sighed. Then he changed to another person and made the call. When it came to the third call, it rang 5 or 6 times before it was picked up. The voice on the other side of the phone sounded a little high and mighty. "Patriarch Wang of the God of War clan, how come you have the time to call me? What an honor. Butler Nyin, how have you been?" Wang Han coughed dryly. "It's all thanks to you. Fortunately, my surname isn't Wang and I'm living quite peacefully. I don't have to worry about not being able to sleep." Everyone's face was filled with extreme anger. Back then, the clan of this chief steward of the Nyen clan had encountered a calamity. The Wang clan had extended a helping hand and helped him escape. To the Wang clan this was a simple matter, but to this person, it was a life-saving grace. Could be said to be a great favor. Now that the Wang clan was in trouble, they had to ask for help. However, they never expected this person to speak in such a way, mocking and gloating over their misfortune. However, Wang Han wasn't angry at all. He knew that this was the most normal thing to do. This was human nature. In this society, when was there such a thing as human kindness? If you had power and influence, you would naturally have human kindness. However, if these people didn't hit you when you were down, didn't beat you when you were down, didn't humiliate your high and mighty female family members for pleasure, was already a great favor. As for providing timely help, there might be some, but most of them would only be haha. When a person who had never risen up was in trouble, as long as this person had talent and potential, there might be people who would provide timely help. However, when a family that was at its peak was in decline, very few people would provide timely help. There would only be people who would kick a man who was down. This is probably the world of mortals. Wang Zhong sighed faintly. Wang Han's face was filled with a warm smile as he said in a fawning tone, "Why do you say that, Brother Nyen? I'm calling you today because I'm at my wit's end. Brother Nyen, please enlighten me with a sentence." There was a moment of silence on the other side before he said, "The Wang family has been a family for many generations. Our achievements are unparalleled and we're awe-inspiring. The glory of the God of War will bring glory to the future generations. Saying that we're at our wit's end is too much of an exaggeration. Brother Nyen, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. Our Wang family has suffered a great loss this time. The possibility of us making a comeback is less than 30%, Wang Han said calmly. Brother Nyen, it doesn't matter if the Wang family still exists or not. The ownership of the Nyen family's 4 mansions outside the city and the 2 skyscrapers in the city will always belong to you. 4 mansions and 2 skyscrapers. Wang Han said, Brother Nyen, you should know that these are all properties that aren't registered. With just a word from me it can be done immediately. What we lack now is also a word from you, Brother Nyen. On the other side, Butler Nyen's voice was deep for a moment before he said, Master Wang, please speak your mind. I can't be away from my post for too long. Everyone was speechless. Can't be away from your post for too long? You're the butler who's second only to one and above everyone else. It was obvious that he didn't want this call to last too long. I won't say anything else. I just want to know where our Wang family died this time? Wang Han asked in a deep voice. How would I know where your Wang family died? Butler Nyen said. Wang Han said sadly, I know even if you don't tell me. Why are you still asking if you know? How could you ask such a small person like me? Haha, Butler Nyen, do you really think that you can hide the relationship between Zuo Duo and the minister from me forever? Wang Han laughed bitterly and said, This matter has been hidden from everyone in the world. Our Wang family has finally died because of this. Although he was just trying to get information out of Butler Nyen, his words were full of certainty. His tone was resolute and decisive, without a trace of hesitation. Butler Nyen was silent for a moment before he said, "Since all of you know, you should understand that your Wang family didn't die in vain this time. 30% chance of making a comeback? Does the Wang family always overestimate themselves? Not even half." Everyone in the Wang family felt their hearts sink. This sentence was too obvious. Wang Han choked for a moment. Then, he said with grief and indignation, "Although we brought this upon ourselves, the minister is too protective of us this time." Butler Nyen smiled faintly and said, "Master Wang, so you were tricking me? So you didn't know anything?" Wang Han stared blankly for a moment before replying, "Where did this come from? Master Wang, you tricked me into saying something. You've wiped away the karma of the past. The future is long. Take care of yourself. From now on, I won't use this number anymore. I'm just a servant. How can I take over your 4 mansions and 2 skyscrapers? The world is long. Take care of yourselves." Slap. The call ended. Wang Han frowned. Wang Zhong's expression became even more gloomy. "What do you mean?" The other Wang family members asked in confusion. "Why do you suddenly realize that we don't know anything?" Wang Zhong's face was pale. He was on the verge of collapsing. "What's wrong? What did you think?" Wang Han asked anxiously. "Big brother. The Wang family is really finished this time." Wang Zhong muttered, "This is worse than the worst situation I imagined. Where did this come from?" Wang Han's voice trembled uncontrollably. He could vaguely guess, but he still couldn't believe it. "Mr. Nyen said that since you knew, you should know that the Wang family didn't die in vain." Wang Zhong's face was pale. He said, "Then big brother, you said that the minister was too protective. Mr. Nyen immediately knew that you didn't know anything. What this means is unimaginable." "What do you mean?" "Because the old man's protective behavior can only be unreasonable under 2 circumstances." Wang Zhong said with a trembling voice, "First, you hurt his favorite son. Second, you hurt his favorite grandson. Apart from these 2 relationships, the others aren't that serious." Chapter 12:22. Wang Zhong's teeth were chattering as he said, "This means that Zhuo Duo is either the minister's son or the minister's grandson. Because in addition to these 2 kinds of relationships, in terms of familial ties, great-grandchildren and the like are not enough for the old man to value them so much. If it wasn't his son, then it was his grandson." The moment he said this, the minds of everyone at the foot of the Wang clan's mountain went blank. The most serious consequence they had thought of was that Zhuo Duo was the minister's clansman. But they had never dared to extend the relationship to the minister's son or grandson. But now, my Wang clan is doomed. Make a comeback? That's impossible. Wang Han looked up to the sky and sighed, tears streaming down his face. Who would have thought that the Wang clan had schemed for a long time, and had painstakingly planned for this? They had mobilized all their resources, mobilized all their financial resources, mobilized all their experts who had been hidden for thousands of years, and even committed many taboo crimes. They had spared no effort to plan this scheme, and it had actually been planned out by the sky inspecting minister? If only they had known a little beforehand, Wang Han would have definitely stopped the plan immediately, and the whole family would have knelt in front of the minister's door. But now, it was all too late. Qin Fangyang was already dead. He Yuanyue's grave had already been dug up. Zhuo Duo had already been assassinated several times. The irreconcilable blood feud had already been formed, and it had already reached a point where it could not be resolved no matter what. The minister did not come forward to condemn the Wang clan, and he had already given enough face to the deceased god of war. But for everyone in the Wang clan, the sky had already darkened. They were originally full of confidence, but they suddenly realized that they had provoked someone they could not afford to provoke. In this world, what could be more fucked up and more hopeless than this? "All of you leave. Wang Zhong, you stay." Wang Han slumped into his chair and waved his hand weakly. The others walked out like walking corpses. Their faces were filled with deep despair. "What should we do?" Wang Han turned his neck weakly and looked at Wang Zhong. "Brother, you have the most ideas. Make a decision. Is there any way to turn this around?" "There's no room for negotiation. There's no room for negotiation." Wang Zhong laughed bitterly. Unless what?" Wang Han asked anxiously. "Unless Qin Fangyang comes back to life and finds out that He Yuanyue's grave hasn't been dug up at all. Then the entire family will go to the Heavenly King of the Right and ask him to bring them to the minister's seat to beg for forgiveness. They will also have to hand over all the people involved and send all the high-level cultivators of the Wang clan to the front lines to atone for their sins. After the minister gives his consent, the Wang clan will have to give up all of its clan's assets to Zhuoxiao Duo. If Zhuoxiao Duo is willing to accept it, the Wang clan will still have a chance to survive. Wang Han sat down on the chair with a pale face. This was simply impossible to fulfill, especially the first two requirements. Resurrecting the dead and restoring the destroyed tomb? I think we can work harder. At least in my opinion, there is still room for improvement. Wang Zhong exhaled softly. Big brother, do you still remember? The flower you obtained from He Yuanyue's grave? Wang Han narrowed his eyes. That red spider lily? Not bad. You mean? Find someone to send it back and some other treasures. Let's see if Zhuoxiao Duo will accept it. Wang Zhong said, this will be a signal for the future of the Wang clan. That's not a problem. The red spider lily was a rare treasure. It was said that those who ate the red spider lily could recover the memories of their previous life. It was a rare treasure. Especially for powerful cultivators, if an accident happened during the reincarnation process, the red spider lily could be said to be the only divine medicine that could solve this problem. The Wang clan was pleasantly surprised to find the red spider lily on He Yuanyue's grave. They reported it to Wang Han immediately. Wang Han was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth for a few days. He felt that the Wang clan was indeed blessed by the heavens. They went out to dig up a grave and found such a treasure. Now the treasure in their hands had to be taken out. After all, no matter how precious it was nothing compared to the life and death of the entire clan. Wang Han immediately began to make arrangements. The red spider lily appeared in front of He Yuanyue's grave not long ago. Zhuoxiao Duo may not know about this. When the time comes, we will act according to the circumstances. If he doesn't know, it will be our goodwill and sincerity. If he knows, we will return it to its rightful owner and also show our goodwill. Let's see if we can negotiate with Zhuoxiao Duo. As long as we are humble enough and hand over the grave diggers, and someone will take responsibility. Even if we have to sacrifice a few lives, this matter. We have to try. Second brother, do you think he will accept it? There is a high possibility that he won't accept it, and the lives of those who go will be in danger. Doesn't that mean there is no room for negotiation? We still have to go. This is the only chance that the Wang clan has. Giving it a try is better than not giving it a try. Zhuoxiao Duo may be a relative of the minister, but based on his past actions, he has always respected the soldiers who protect the mainland. No matter how hostile he is to our Wang clan, he still has to give face to Grand Elder Jinghong. Okay. Yes, we have to create as much momentum as possible. As for face and whatnot, we can't afford it now. I understand. That afternoon, the Wang clan issued an apology to Zhuoxiao Duo. The radio stations and other television stations were all bought by the Wang clan at a high price. At the same time, they created a momentum to send a peerless treasure to young Master Zhua. This was to express the Wang clan's deep apology and remorse. This matter was made known to everyone in an extremely short period of time. When Zhuoxiao Duo and the others came out to rest, they happened to see this news. Looks like the Wang clan knows who you are, boss. They want to express their goodwill and beg for mercy. Li Chenglong snickered. Long Yuxing scratched his head and said, Zhua's identity? What is Zhua's identity? Li Chenglong sighed and said, damn, you still haven't figured it out? Long Yuxing shook his head blankly. Then he turned his head to look at Wan Lixio. Wan Lixio coughed and said, I only have a rough guess. I didn't tell you before I confirmed it. Yu Moyan and Li Zhangming also shook their heads. Their faces were full of confusion. Obviously, they didn't know what Li Chenglong and Wan Lixio were talking about. Gao Qiao, Zhen Piapiao and the others face-bombed and were speechless. The three of you don't know? Li Chenglong then realized that Pai Yibao was also shaking his head. He couldn't help but be stunned. If Pai Yibao didn't shake his head, he would have forgotten about Pai Yibao again. Well, why did I say, again? Even so, when he saw this shaking head, he actually thought for a while. Baby, your invisible great technique. Has it reached the level of perfection? Don't call me baby. Pai Yibao's face was distorted and he roared angrily. Bao. No. Xiao Bao. Li Chenglong, do you really want to bully me? Do you really think that you are the number one person after Zhua? Even if you are, you can't bully me like this. Pai Yibao was so angry that his face was red. He was already speaking incoherently. He was a man, but he was being called baby. Bao? It was really too embarrassing. Ha 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 ha. Everyone was swaying back and forth. No one stepped forward to smooth things over. All right. You guys don't know? You didn't guess it? You didn't guess or you didn't want to guess? Li Qinglong laughed and asked. Nonsense. If we could guess it, why would we ask you? To show that you are smart? Li Qinglong nodded. Then you guys can continue to hold it in. We are very smart, smarter than all of you. We are smart, we have foresight, and we are proud. He actually stopped explaining and started to talk about the matter. Long Yuxing and the others were furious. It was as if their mouths were filled with something that they couldn't swallow or spit out. So you've been talking for so long just to play with us? Boss, what do you say? What else can I say? Zhou Xiaoduo said. Since they have shown such great sincerity, we have to meet them. When the time comes, listen to my orders and act according to my mood. Everyone's spirits were lifted at once. With the Wang clan's actions, Zhou Xiaoyan's courtyard became the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone's attention was focused on the courtyard. Naturally, they wanted to see how the legendary young master Zhuo would deal with this matter. Under everyone's gaze, the 4 Skysoar realm experts of the Wang clan, led by the third brother of the Wang clan head, Wang Yi, came to the courtyard. The Wang clan doesn't have anything to offer. We only have a stock of heavenly wonder grass that we obtained by chance some time ago. We are giving it to young Master Zhuo as a token of our sincerity. Wang Yi finally saw the real person and heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that he had completed half of his mission. At least, Zhou Xiaoduo was willing to meet him. As long as there was something to talk about, anything could be discussed. Li Qinglong and the others didn't know what was going on. Only Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned when he saw the beautiful Permitha flower swaying in the wind. That was the Permitha flower in front of Grandma He's grave. What was the Wang clan doing? Were they trying to provoke him? Adding fuel to the fire? Zhou Xiaoduo's thoughts had wronged the Wang clan. The Wang clan really didn't have such intentions. They believed that they had already given a sufficient signal. We admit our mistake. We even took the initiative to return such a rare treasure like the Permitha flower. Young Master Zhuo, what else do you need? What else do you need to appease your anger? We will accept everything without any hesitation. By returning the Permitha flower, we are admitting our mistake. No matter what you say, we will accept everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't have sent the Permitha flower. If Li Qinglong knew the origin of the Permitha flower, he might be able to see through the Wang clan's intentions. Unfortunately, the Wang clan was facing Zhou Xiaoduo, the young Master Zhuo who didn't walk the normal path. Young Master Zhuo's way of thinking had always been different from others. Therefore, the moment he saw the Permitha flower, Zhou Xiaoduo's face turned gloomy. Chapter 12:23. There's a way. Wang Yi was overjoyed when he saw Zhou Xiaoduo's expression. It seemed like Zhou Xiaoduo recognized the flower. He could get straight to the point. Young Master Zhuo. Get out. Zhou Xiaoduo said rudely. Wang Yi was confused. What was going on? Your Wang clan and I are already irreconcilable. As the saying goes, those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. You don't need to give me any gifts. I won't accept them. Zhou Xiaoduo slammed the table angrily. Send them out. Hearing Zhou Xiaoduo's order, Long Yuxing, Li Qinglong, Li Zhangming, Yu Moyan, Xiang Chong, and the rest immediately charged forward like wolves and tigers, chasing the 5 Wang family members out of the door. Zhou Xiaoduo said that they should act according to his signal. Now they didn't need to act according to his signal. They had to act. Li Qinglong was stunned. He looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. You don't want it? Zhou Xiaoduo gave him a look. I told you to act according to my signal. Don't worry about it. I have my own plans. I'll bring you guys to have fun. Li Qinglong beamed. More fun? Zhou Xiaoduo. Of course. Under the pushing and shoving of Long Yuxing and the others, the 5 people from the Wang family were directly pushed out of the door. The door closed in front of them. The 5 Wang family members looked at each other. What should they do? They didn't accept it and even chased them out. The other party's attitude was obvious. They were going to fight to the death. As for easing their relationship, what was there to talk about? Wang Yi had no choice but to lead his men back with their heads and faces covered in dirt. However, he was somewhat glad in his heart. Luckily, they made a big fuss this time. Otherwise, the 5 of them would have been endangered. That this Zhou Xiaoduo had no intention of reconciling, that there were so many pairs of eyes staring at them. They were chased out of the door just like that. The Wang family had lost all face. His face, which had already been stepped on, sank further into the ground. But the situation was stronger than the person, so what could he do? He could only walk back with his face covered in dirt. On the way back, Wang Yi only felt that his face was burning and his back was itching. He felt as if countless eyes were staring at his spine, and countless people were pointing and mocking him. Wang Yi instinctively quickened his pace and did not dare to raise his head for a long time. Seeing that they were about to reach the Wang family's residence, after turning around the street and passing through the business district in front, they would arrive at the Wang family's old residence. Wang Yi finally let out a sigh of relief. He didn't want to be humiliated a second time. He had already licked his face and tried to suck up to her cold butt, but he still hadn't managed to do so. This was too disgusting. But at this moment, suddenly, an indescribable aura descended from the sky, lofty and majestic. A dozen or so people landed in front of him. They were all dressed in black and had their faces covered. No matter how one looked at them, they did not fit in with the current atmosphere. The leader shouted, "This is a robbery. Leave all your valuables behind and I'll spare your life." "This is a robbery." The other dozen or so people shouted in unison. There was no fear in their voices, instead there was some excitement. At this moment, Wang Yi was so shocked that he didn't know what to say or where he was. What kind of robbery is this? This is Shangjing City, right in front of the Imperial City, right under the feet of the Emperor. In broad daylight, in the middle of a bustling city. Robbery? Could you guys be any more ridiculous? What's more, even if you covered your face and came to rob me with that layer of cloth, you might not be able to change your voice a little. I just spoke to you. Do you think I don't know that you're Zhuo Duo? You should at least change your voice and figure. The preparation for this robbery is too careless, isn't it? Left. Wang Yi had just said a sentence, or rather, a word, but he immediately felt the aura of the 14 people opposite him. They had already started to move and greeted him. All kinds of weapons, all kinds of auras, all kinds of mysterious skills. Fell neatly. Some were hot, some were cold, some were gloomy, some were tyrannical, some were murderous. This group of people shouted as they attacked. "We are the handsome bandit team of the north. Today we are here to do some small business. If you know what's good for you, don't move. We, the handsome bandit team, will never kill the innocent. Only those who resist stubbornly will be killed and not buried. The 5 fat lambs in front, if you know what's good for you, quickly hand over your valuables. This road was opened by me, this tree was planted by me. We, the handsome bandit team, have always abhorred evil. We enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and rob the rich to help the poor. Hand over your valuables." Ow. Wang Yi became more and more speechless. "You didn't want it when I gave it to you before. You just turned around and you came to rob with your face covered. Can you be more shameless? What a handsome bandit team. Can't you guys have some moral integrity? We wanted to hand it over, but we didn't expect to resist stubbornly. But the problem now was that you didn't give us a chance. Before we could hand it over, the other party's weapons had already smashed over with earth-shattering force. The first thing that came over was the most frightening. It was a pair of big hammers that were enough to scare people to death. Buzzing sound. One hammer flipped into the sky, and the other hammer seemed to turn the earth upside down. Mixed with an appalling force, it fell down violently. It was mixed with a thunderous roar. The handsome bandit team is out to do business. Idlers, back off. Wait, gee. Wang Han only felt an unprecedented crisis in his face. For a moment, his soul was in turmoil. He desperately roared, wanting to compromise, wanting to admit defeat. But before he could shout out the word "hand over," a long arrow had already pierced through his mouth and went straight to the back of his head. The abundant force brought his whole body up and then ruthlessly nailed him to the hard ground of the Imperial City street. On the ground, a pool of blood quickly spread out. Wang Yi's eyes were wide open. His eyes lost their light, but he still looked at a certain place in the sky in disbelief. High up. Pai Yibao's figure flashed. He was brazenly shooting arrows from high up in the sky. There were clearly countless experts in the surroundings, and they weren't Zhuo group, but no one noticed it. It was only when Wang Yi was shot dead that everyone woke up and looked up, but the high up in the sky was already empty. This wasn't a deliberate act of keeping one eye open or closing one eye, but rather no one noticed it. It was truly inconceivable. Below, Zhuo Duo brazenly smashed down with his hammer. With a buzzing sound, followed by a puff sound, it was as if he had smashed a ripe watermelon. A wave of blood was smashed out. One of the Wang clan's Skysoar realm experts who came with Wang Yi was actually unable to resist. His entire body was smashed from head to toe, and his mangled flesh and blood fell to the ground, turning into an oval-shaped meat patty. The one with the ring on his arm was intact. The other person beside him was completely frozen, turning into an ice sculpture. As the sword light flashed, with a crashing sound, ice shards scattered all over the ground, forming a sparkling and translucent pile on the ground. The third person's body was pierced by 6 different weapons one after another. Then Xiang Chang's overlord halberd smashed down from the sky, directly smashing his head. The fourth person struggled to take a step forward, but a sword was already coming at him. It was the Azure Dragon's sacred sword. He tried to block it, but his weapon shattered. Long Yuxing's sword of might had already split open his face. Gao Qiao, Zhen Piao, and Du Guyan, didn't even have time to attack. Unable to stop the momentum, they unwillingly slashed at the corpse twice. Don't destroy the ring. Zhou Xiaoduo moved like lightning. With swift movements, he cleaned up the interspatial ring and other equipment. Then he shouted, "Hurry up! Retreat! Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. We're the handsome bandit team from the north. We'll uphold justice on behalf of the heavens and rob the rich to help the poor. Today we've robbed a few fat lambs. Don't implicate the innocent. Go back and check. If there's something missing, we'll rob them. Don't be so stubborn. Let's go." Then the black-clothed members of the Northern Handsome Bandit gang leaped up one after another, and with a whistling sound, they instantly disappeared without a trace. Only the bloodstains on the ground were left. Countless experts who were secretly paying attention to the situation were in an uproar. Just like that, the third master of the Wang clan, along with 4 Skysoar realm experts, was killed on the ground in front of everyone's eyes. From start to finish, it took less than 20 breaths of time. If one didn't count the wrangling at the beginning and end, it would only take a dozen breaths of time. Although this kind of vendetta battle was common in today's society, and there were martial artists fighting on the streets, this was the first time someone had committed such a crime in front of the imperial city. Furthermore, the person who was killed was a high-ranking member of the War God clan, which was even more unusual. Countless years before this, people from the Wang clan had always been chasing people and fighting. Today, a member of the Wang clan was killed on the street. It was truly refreshing and satisfying. Although the countless spectators didn't say anything, they were all cheering in their hearts. This is too satisfying. Even your Wang clan has such a day. On the other hand, the experts hiding in the dark felt their hearts shiver. They released their divine senses to observe the situation, but for some reason, the divine senses they released were alternating between hot and cold. When it was hot, it felt like it would melt, and when it was cold, it felt like it would freeze. It was just that after watching this great battle, everyone felt like their heads were about to split open. Their divine senses felt like they had caught a cold that only these people could truly understand, that the people who were killed were all Skysoar realm experts. This was even more inconceivable. Skysoar. A group of Skysoar realm experts were chopped up like vegetables without any strength to fight back? This handsome bandit team from the north is too powerful. Handsome Bandit Team from the North. What a ridiculous name. I wonder who came up with it. That person doesn't have any moral integrity at all. That even if you're doing it half-heartedly, at least do it half-heartedly. The street was completely silent. Blood flowed noiselessly. The entire area where the incident happened was as quiet as a ghost town. Nobody dared to go over. The security team, Star Shield, and the people from the city guard office waited for the Handsome Bandit Team to disappear for a while before they arrived. What happened? Killing people on the street? How audacious. Who did it? Who did it? Handsome Bandit Team? Investigate. Check it out. Where did this Handsome Bandit Team come from? Investigate thoroughly. Chapter 12:24. A group of professionals began to investigate the scene. After a round of investigation, they announced that 5 experts of the Wang clan had been attacked by bandits and died. The bandits had killed and robbed. They were extremely vicious and arrogant, and their methods of committing crimes were even more brutal. The nature of this case was extremely bad. They had already reported it to the higher-ups, and they were ready to mobilize manpower to surround and annihilate the handsome Northern Bandit gang. At the same time, they were to gather all information about the handsome Northern Bandit gang. They could not let the bandits get away with it. Once there was news, they would immediately attack and arrest them. It was better to let them go unpunished than to let them go. In addition, this case was no small matter. It needed to be carefully investigated to make sure that there were no hidden secrets, no grudges, and no other social relationships. Why did this happen? The so-called robbery was too one-sided and not convincing enough. Then there must be another real reason. Wait. The coroner team soon arrived and carefully examined the corpses. Their work was meticulous and serious. Soon people from the Wang clan also arrived. Looking at the tragic scene, the Wang clan manager's face was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. This was clearly a planned assassination. There's no need to investigate the murderer. This is obvious. Steward of the Wang clan, since you have already said so, compared to the suspect, who do you think is the suspect? The murderer is. Before the Wang clan manager could finish his sentence, he was already speechless. Who was the murderer? The son of the Sky Patrol minister? Not to mention whether anyone would believe him or dare to believe him, he did not dare to say it. He could only mutter, "We're innocent. Our Wang clan members died unjustly." I know. Innocent people died just like that. It must be hard to accept. We will investigate properly and solve the case as soon as possible to give justice to the deceased. Don't worry, justice may be late, but it will definitely not be absent. The corpses of the deceased. Bring them back first? We have already finished investigating the surroundings of the crime scene. We can collect the corpses now. After all, the deceased should be buried in peace. Hurry up and send them to the ancestral grave. When the people from the Wang clan heard this, their faces all darkened as if they had been stabbed in the back again. Ancestral grave? What ancestral grave do we have now? It had long collapsed. This case will be handled as such for the time being. After I return, I will immediately report to my superiors and let them decide how to apprehend the culprit. Steward Wang, do you have any other opinions or suggestions? If you have any suspects, remember to tell me. Suggestions? Suspect? Let me tell you. The members of the Wang family felt as though they could go crazy at any moment. Not to mention that this was the first time the Wang clan had suffered a loss in broad daylight, even in the entire Shangjing city. This was an unprecedented rare occurrence. The Wang family. Despicable. Shameless. Shameless. How dare this Zuoxiao duo claim to be a descendant of the minister? He actually used such a despicable method. Wang Han angrily smashed the entire study. Such shameless methods, where is your face, where is your decency? Brother, please calm down. Wang Zhong calmly advised. You must not lose your composure now. If you lose your composure, then our Wang family really has no hope. You've gone too far, you've gone too far. Wang Han's face was twitching with anger. His entire body was trembling so much that it changed shape. After a long time, he finally calmed down under Wang Zhong's reassurance. What a disgrace, what a disgrace. Second brother, that Zuoxiao duo, who can be said to be the descendant of the most prestigious family in the continent, actually used such a despicable method. Wang Han's face was ashen as he paced in circles in the room. Whether he accepts or not, it's all within reason. But he just had to refuse in front of them. He waited for them to leave the house and then came to snatch them. He even killed them and robbed them. How shameless and crazy is this behavior? This old man is so disgusted that it's as if he ate shit. Wang Zhong smiled bitterly. Brother, Zuoxiao duo is not shameless. He's deliberately disgusting you. This is his true motive for using all kinds of methods. Huh. Wang Han suddenly froze. He didn't accept it, which made his stance clear. He turned around and snatched it back, and he didn't even try to hide it. This is purely to disgust you. It's also to make his stance clear. He didn't even try to hide his figure or his voice. He's clearly telling you that I did it. What can you do? What can you do? His actions now are equivalent to pointing at your nose and saying, just like before, we set up a trap to kill Qin Fangyang and dug up He Yuanyue's grave. Didn't we think that we were the ones who did it? What can you do? We thought that the other party couldn't do anything to us. Now the tables have turned. And now we really can't do anything to him. We no longer think that way. No matter what, we don't dare to do anything to him. Especially now. We don't even dare to reveal his identity. Firstly, we don't have any evidence. If we reveal his identity, it will only make the world take more extreme measures against us. You dare to insult the minister. Wang Han sighed deeply. How can I not know this? You said that the minister's son did it. Can you show us any evidence? If you don't have any evidence, you are slandering the minister. No one in the entire continent can prove that the minister doesn't have a son. How can we have evidence? Besides, even if we prove that the minister's son did it, what can we do? Everyone in the continent will be even happier. The minister has a descendant. The whole world will celebrate. Everyone will know. Everyone will admire. That's something that can be imagined. Some people will even be so happy that they will set off firecrackers. Wang Zhong's face was full of gloom. If we insist on doing something, we will be attacked by everyone. What's the big deal about the minister's son killing a few of you? This sentence will definitely fall on the Wang clan's head. The two sighed at each other. This sentence was just like what the Wang clan had said before. Our war god clan has made outstanding contributions to the astral souls. What's the big deal about killing a few people? What's the big deal about our war god clan occupying some land? What's the big deal about our war god clan digging up a grave? But no matter how awesome your war god clan is, how can you compare to the minister? How big of a face do you have? If Zhuo's identity was exposed, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. According to your Wang clan's logic, what's the big deal about the minister's son killing a few people of your Wang clan? Just treat it as a pastime. You still have the face to shout? If the minister's son wants to kill you, why don't you wash your necks and line up? Why don't you stretch your necks and play with the young master? What if the young master doesn't feel good about beheading people? Wouldn't your Wang clan be guilty of a great crime? Thinking of this situation, Wang Han and Wang Zhong felt so ashamed that they could die. Think about it again. The reaction of the city guards and the Star Shield today was not normal at all. It took so long for them to arrive so late. Doesn't this mean that someone is deliberately delaying the operation? And this person is probably a high-ranking official, or even a high-ranking official. After arriving, he seemed to handle things fairly. But in fact, he was perfunctory. Every sentence that he said was rubbing salt on our Wang clan's wound. He even specifically asked about our Wang clan's ancestral grave. Who doesn't know that our Wang clan's ancestral grave collapsed? If he didn't do it on purpose. This is blatant bullying of others. And the one he bullied is our Wang clan. I won't accept your gifts. If I accept your gifts, it will inevitably be misunderstood. I won't accept it, but I still want it. So I will take it back. Killing people and robbing them is just a trivial matter. Does your Wang clan have a problem with that? Everything had been deduced clearly, but the two brothers could only sigh at each other in silence. The situation was clear. Zhuo's purpose was also clear. I'm bullying you. What can you do? What can you do? For many years, this kind of bullying was done by the Wang clan to others. They could only look at each other in despair and helplessness. Now the tables had turned. Someone else had also bullied the Wang clan. They could only suffer in silence. Not only could they not fight back, they could not talk back. They did not even dare to testify against the culprit. The Wang clan had truly tasted the feelings of those people who had been bullied by them previously. And they tasted it several times more. This kind of grievance, helplessness, despair, and helplessness that they were so depressed that they wanted to commit suicide. At this moment, suddenly someone came to report. Clan head, Zhuo is here. Zhuo is here? Wang Han and Wang Zhong were shocked. What was he doing here at this time? After the handsome northern bandit gang returned, Li Chenglong's eyes turned and he immediately came up with a good idea. Boss, this matter is not over yet. We can make use of the follow-up. How do we make use of the follow-up? Now that the Wang clan is aware of your identity, things will be much easier to handle. Li Chenglong narrowed his eyes and said, originally, we were in a disadvantageous position. We can't go to them directly. They can encircle and annihilate us if they don't know. But now it's a different matter. We can make things worse, be more arrogant and disgust them. Let's get some interest first to vent our anger. Due to the situation, we can't really kill the Wang clan to avenge the old principle. But now we can do something else. Ha! Zhuo's eyes lit up like light bulbs. Didn't the Wang clan always bully others? Today we'll give them a taste of their own medicine. Who doesn't know how to be arrogant and despotic? Li Chenglong smiled sinisterly. Let's do this. Good idea, I like it. Ah. Don't say that you like it first. You still have to do this and this and this to get revenge. Let's have a good time first. Chapter 12:25. Brilliant plan. Swollen, you're so bad. You're so bad that you have ulcers on your head and pus on your feet. But I like it. Ah. Zhuo was exultant. Li Chenglong. Zhuo, I've racked my brains to come up with ideas for you and all I get is ulcers on my head and pus on my feet? This bastard. It settled then. After making up his mind, young Master Zhuo couldn't wait any longer and went to the Wang family. Since he was going to vent his anger, he had to do it ruthlessly. Zhuo dragged Lu Yingfeng along. Lu Yingfeng was more resentful than anyone else. Zhuo was certain. Now that his identity was clear and the curtains had not been drawn, the Wang family wouldn't dare to do anything to him even if they were given 10,000 guts. Therefore he was exceptionally safe. Thus, everyone left in a grandiose manner. Although they felt like they had eaten a fly, the Wang family still chose to welcome Zhuoxiao duo Lu Yingfeng and the others in with the etiquette of welcoming VIP guests. The head of the family, Wang Han, even personally came out to greet them. One could imagine the grievance in the heart of the head of the Wang family. He even had to suppress his anger and suffer internal injuries. Ayaya. The Wang family is so big. Zhuoxiao duo strode forward with the air of a son of the heaven inspecting minister. With a reserved expression he said, "Not bad, not bad. This residence is excellent." Li Chenglong, who was dressed like a butler, crooked his nose and said, "How much wealth did the people spend on this house?" The Wang family looked at him. "How could this butler speak like that? You're even in front of us. How could you be a guest?" "Ah, be careful with your words." Zhuoxiao duo said, "You have to be flexible. Don't speak the truth. It's easy to offend people." Li Chenglong understood. Big brother is right. I'm a straightforward person. But this place is indeed extremely extravagant. There's an ancient saying, wine and meat stink behind the red door, and frozen bones lie on the road. It's probably referring to the Wang family. The Wang family was speechless. If you don't know how to speak, then speak less. Wang Han held back his anger and smiled. "Young Master Zhuo, for you to come here today, I wonder. Is there something important?" "It's nothing." Zhuoxiao duo laughed and said, "Actually, there are some things that are hard to talk about." "Young Master Zhuo, feel free to speak your mind. It's like this. During this period of turmoil and chaos, my side is also in a state of panic. Moreover, we have suffered quite a lot of losses. My father gave me a few treasures and I accidentally lost them. This is somewhat inexcusable. My father gave them to me. My father." Wang Han's face turned green. This scare almost made him lose his soul. What was there to not understand? We wanted to kill Zhuoxiao's parents. But we couldn't find them. If that's the case, could it be that our Wang clan almost assassinated the minister? A layer of cold sweat appeared on Wang Han's back. His face was covered in white sweat. For a moment, his mind was in turmoil. He actually didn't pay attention to what Zhuoxiao duo said. Zhuoxiao duo laughed. Lost something, just lost something, ha 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 ha. "Oh man, you're playing dumb. But how can I let you play dumb?" Wang Han came back to his senses. For a moment, his mind was blank. He could only follow Zhuoxiao's words and said, "Young Master Zhua, lost something?" The moment he asked this question, he suddenly felt an ominous premonition in his heart. Then he saw Lv Yingfeng's half-smile. Wang Han's face finally changed. Next to him, Li Chenglong stood up. His face was filled with righteous indignation. He pointed at Wang Han's nose and scolded, "Wang Han, why are you playing dumb? Our boss lost something because your Wang clan stole it, and you're still pretending to be innocent. You put a donkey on your nose, do you think you're pretending to be an elephant? Don't you know that this thing is soft when cut off?" Wang Han almost vomited blood. My Wang clan stole it? Where did this come from? Countless Wang clan members glared at Li Chenglong. They couldn't wait to rush up and eat him up. Zhuoxiao duo pretended to be angry. "Swollen, what nonsense are you talking about?" Then he looked at Wang Han with a fake smile. "Wang clan master, I'm sorry. I'm just a housekeeper. I don't know how to be flexible. I'm straightforward and like to speak the truth. Please don't mind." "I don't mind." Wang Han looked at Li Chenglong as if he wanted to eat someone. "I don't mind at all. You Zhuoxiao duo are really talented. This is your housekeeper? Or are you kidding? Who doesn't know that this is Li Chenglong? He even has the extremely high title of Generation's military advisor. The generals all over the world are drooling over him. Can you, Zhuoxiao duo, afford to use such a housekeeper?" "Well, Zhuoxiao duo is the minister's relative. It seems like he can still afford to use him." Wang Han didn't dare to get angry. He could only grit his teeth and say, "My Wang clan didn't steal." These words were full of grievance and anger. "Bullshit. Bullshit. You didn't steal. You said you didn't steal, so you didn't steal? There are witnesses and evidence. You actually dare to open your mouth and say such things? You're really full of lies. Do you think that just by moving your lips you can poop out like an anus?" Li Chenglong scolded, "Look at your lack of confidence. It's obvious that you're guilty. Did you get the fucking fire of the sound path?" Wang Han's blood immediately rushed to his head. Too unpleasant to listen to. Too unpleasant to listen to. This bastard's mouth is smellier than a dung pit. "Wang clan master, please don't mind." "Actually," Zhuoxiao duo said hypocritically. Wang Han couldn't take it anymore. Li, you said you have witnesses and evidence. Where is it? Take it out. Even if you have a respectable status, you can't slander good people for no reason. Good people? Li Qinglong laughed out loud with his nostrils pointing to the sky. Your Wang clan still dares to talk so arrogantly in this day and age. You keep saying that you are good people. Do I not know the meaning of the word good, or do I misunderstand the meaning of the word? LV Yingfeng, Long Yuxing, and the rest were so satisfied that they felt from the bottom of their feet to the top of their heads. Especially LV Yingfeng. He was so happy that he was about to fly. The scolding was so vicious and unpleasant to the ears. But I really like it. To be able to see Wang Han being scolded in front of him was the most pleasing thing in his life. Looking at Wang Han's sullen face, the more LV Yingfeng looked at it, the more he felt that he couldn't get enough of this face. A little more sullen would be even better. Long Yuxing, Yu Moyan, and the rest were all enlightened. Li Qinglong's eloquence was really something. No wonder Li Qinglong volunteered to do this job. This guy's eloquence was really good. He was so good at scolding people. There were so many good words that I couldn't even think of in my dreams. I know many of them and I know how to use them. But to string them together to form the most vicious words, I couldn't even think of it even if I was beaten to death. Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. Patriarch Wang, it's like this. When you sent me the red spider lily, I didn't want it, and I was very angry. This haha, I can't hide it from you. You know about this, right? Wang Han let out a muffled groan. You still have the face to say that you snatched it back long ago. And you even killed everyone. And you still want to talk about the red spider lily? Where did you get the face? How can you not feel embarrassed? I know, right? How can I not know? Zhou Xiaoduo said, but there's a reason why I'm angry. To tell you the truth. Zhou Xiaoduo said, back then my father and mother were afraid that we were too young and insensible and would cause trouble, provoking people we shouldn't provoke. What if we got injured or something? Right, that wouldn't be good. If we provoked those unreasonable bastards, it would be inevitable that our friends and elders would be killed and their graves dug up. It would be even more unpleasant. Wang family head, don't you think so? Zhou Xiaoduo said with a smile. His eyes were as sharp as knives. Wang Han coughed and said, young Master Zhou, you're right. This is human nature. Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. In order to avoid this, my father and mother prepared something for me. As for me, I was really disappointing at that time. Because my family was relatively well off, I didn't take anything to heart. Now that I think about it, I'm really ashamed. You should know that every porridge and meal is not easy to come by. Every strand of food is hard to come by. Who knows that every grain of food on the plate is hard to come by? Am I right, Patriarch Wang? Wang Han lowered his head and rolled his eyes. You're pretty fucking cultured. Among the things my parents gave me, there was a heavenly treasure. Yes, a red spider lily. Some time ago it was stolen. Along with it were a lot of heart of stars, jade of astral souls, heavenly weapons, heavenly treasures, and so on. A lot. This was really embarrassing, but the amount of things I stole was really not small. It's already hurting my bones. Originally, the things were stolen because I wasn't good enough. It has nothing to do with anyone. I've already admitted my loss. In life, who hasn't stepped on a pile of dog shit and been disgusted a few times? But today when I saw the red spider lily you sent over, I felt that it looked very familiar. Zhou Xiaoduo said. Red spider lily should all look the same, right? Wang Han said coldly. He finally understood. These guys were clearly here to disgust him, extort him, and humiliate him. Ah, is Master Wang implying that you've seen other red spider lilies before? And you've seen more than one? Zhou Xiaoduo asked in surprise. Rare treasures like the red spider lily, how many of them were there in this world? I wouldn't dare. But if it's the red spider lily, although the Wang family's foundation is shallow, we still have a few, Wang Han said coldly. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed and said, of course I don't mean to question Master Wang, but I can confirm that the red spider lily you took today was mine. May I ask how you can prove it, Master Zhou? Proof is easy. I've been mischievous since I was young. The main reason is that I'm a possessive person. I like to leave my own mark on things that belong to me. Zhou Xiaoduo explained with a face full of smiles. On that red spider lily, I pinched one of its petals with my fingernail. And I even drew a little turtle on the pinch mark. Ah. I was young and ignorant back then, but I didn't want to become the evidence of today's events. A carving and a peck, could it be that it's destined? Zhou Xiaoduo laughed and said, as long as Master Wang takes out that red spider lily, I'll show it to you. The evidence is conclusive, so there's no way for you to deny it. Chapter 12:26. Take it out? Wang Han glared at him. You really have the nerve to say that. You've already taken it and now you want me to take it out to confront you? What nonsense are you talking about? Wang Han was so angry that he leaned back and said with a dark face, but this red spider lily was just taken away by the damn Northern Handsome Bandit group. Taken away? Zhou Xiaoduo narrowed his eyes and said, Wang family head, it doesn't matter if it was snatched away. As the saying goes, the net of heaven has a long arm, and those who kill and steal will have their own retribution. But I have other evidence to prove that the Permitha flower that the Wang family took out today indeed belonged to me. Evidence? What evidence? I took a photo when you sent it to me. Master Wang, you'll know when you see it. Zhou Xiaoduo took out his mobile phone, opened the camera, and showed him a photo, saying, Master Wang, please take a look. In the photo, Wang Yi was holding a red spider lily in his hand with a fawning look on his face. And on the petals of the red spider lily, there was a fingernail print and a little turtle that was not very clear. Of course, this was the photo taken by Li Chenglong when he disguised as Wang Yi. With his current cultivation, it was easy for him to control the muscles on his face to change into another person's appearance for a short time. Wang Han's face suddenly darkened. How could he frame me like this? I've lived long enough to see this. Where's your face? Where's your face? Is this fun? Is it really fun? Zhou Xiaoduo pointed at the photo and said, Master Wang, look, isn't this a fingernail print? Isn't this a little turtle? Isn't this your third brother? What's his name? Wang Yi? Does this count as conclusive evidence? Wang family head, give us a straightforward and fair answer. Li Chenglong stood at the side and said proudly, the truth is that it was the Wang family who stole our things. The Wang family is a thief. Wang Han's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He didn't speak for a long time. After a long time he took a deep breath and said, Young Master Zhou, what do you want to do? Do you want to completely humiliate our Wang clan? Before Zhou Xiaoduo could say anything, Li Chenglong slammed the table and stood up. What do you mean by that? You guys are fucking thieves and you still think you're in the right? Was this how the Wang clan, which had a history of 10,000 years, got rich? During the day he behaved like a human, but at night he became a thief with his family? Killing people, robbing tombs and robbing tombs. That's how they managed to build up a clan of 10,000 generations. Can your Wang clan be any more shameless? Was it possible? Wang family head, do you have any shame? Why do I look like an ass? Open your mouth and let me see, are there any teeth in your mouth? Don't tell me it's really upside down? Move further away and let me see. Don't really spit out shit. PFFF. Xiang Chong, Long Yuxing, and the others couldn't help but turn their heads and spit. Because they had already foreseen that they would be scolded harshly today, the group of female classmates did not come. However, the group of male classmates did not miss a single one and all followed along. At this moment, all of them felt so good that their intestines were about to cramp. However, they all made up their minds. In the future they must not provoke Li Chenglong. This guy was too vicious when it came to scolding people. They would rather provoke Zhou and get beaten up than provoke Li Chenglong's poisonous tongue. It was too powerful and no one could withstand it. Wang Han was finally angry. He slammed the table and stood up. Li, don't go too far. The Aries clan is not to be trifled with. Li Chenglong was also furious. He slammed the table and stood up. So what if you're from the Aries clan? You think the Aries clan can steal? You think the Aries clan can be unreasonable? Now that there are witnesses and evidence, do you still want to go to court for such an obvious thing? Fine. Since you don't want to admit it, we'll go to court and let the country and the law be the judge. Let Uncle Nyo from the Law Enforcement Department handle the case impartially and settle the matter. Go. Let's go to the Law Enforcement Department now. I don't believe that there's no room for reasoning in this world. The War God clan can do whatever they want, be unscrupulous and have no taboos. Patriarch Wang, I only want to ask you, if the Law Enforcement Department decides that you stole, what will you say? Li Chenglong slammed the table. He puffed out his chest and raised his head, spittle flying everywhere. Wang Han could only feel his blood pressure rising. He was about to vomit blood. Was there a need to go to court? Wang Han knew very well that no matter where this case went, the Wang clan would lose. Even if they were to fight in front of the Emperor would only say, it was your Wang clan who stole it. Although everyone knew that the evidence was fake, no one would speak up for the Wang clan. Everyone would say, this is the truth. Zhou Xiaoduo could only point out 2 pieces of evidence to prove that it was him. However, at that level they could easily find 1,000 pieces of evidence to prove that it was Zhou Xiaoduo's. This was a case that they were bound to lose. And the Wang clan had done this kind of thing no less than thousands or tens of thousands of times over the past few thousand years. As long as they wanted something, they would buy it for 100,000 yuan for something that was originally worth 100 million yuan. Not selling it? Just nice, they could even save that 100,000 yuan. When they went to court, they had plenty of evidence. This was originally their clan's. They didn't want to bully others, so they said that they bought it back with money. Then the verdict would be, yes, this was their clan's. They didn't have to spend a single cent. They didn't even have to pay for the lawsuit because the loser would pay for it. How simple. They could even earn a good reputation. But today the same method was being used on him. This feeling was really terrible. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed and said, Patriarch Wang, I don't understand. If you stole something, so be it. Can't you just return it? I don't have any excessive demands. With such conclusive evidence in front of us, why do you have to deny it? You're tarnishing the glory of the Aries clan for no reason. We didn't steal it. Wang Han was so wrong that his chest was about to explode. You really didn't steal it? Zhou Xiaoduo narrowed his eyes. Since you, Patriarch Wang, are so certain, then you don't intend to be reasonable. Then I can only find someone reasonable. What do you want? Wang Han softened. Although he didn't know who Zhou Xiaoduo was looking for, he was sure that it was someone he couldn't afford to offend. And there weren't many people like this in Shangjing, but there were also quite a few. With the Wang clan's current situation, it was unwise to make such a big enemy on the surface. Instead of feeling even more uncomfortable when the time came, and the arrival of a big shot might further affect the overall plan, it was better to act like a gangster now. Didn't he already understand that the situation was stronger than him? What I want is very simple. As long as you give me my things, I'll turn around and leave. I won't stay here, Zhou Xiaoduo said. Your things. Wang Han vomited blood. What things do you have? I'll give them to you. By saying this, he was determined to compromise to the end and spend money to avoid disaster. This was something that couldn't be helped. The situation was stronger than him. I really don't know what things you have. Zhou Xiaoduo looked indifferent. I just took them at the time and didn't see what they were. Anyway, there are a lot of treasures and weapons. Wang Han was dumbfounded. If you don't even know, then how can we compensate? What do you mean by a lot? How about this, you open your warehouse and we'll go in and take a look. You see, my things are marked. We definitely won't take things casually. Zhou Xiaoduo looked serious. Wang Han finally couldn't help but vomit blood. Are you fucking here to raid my house? That if you open my family's treasury, as long as you want something, you can put your fingerprints on it and it'll be yours. I can even think of this with my ass. In this way, if you empty my family's warehouse, my family will have the reputation of being thieves. Moreover, what you steal is the minister's family's treasure. That this is simply a big black pot, and it's coming down so wildly. But you have to admit it. If you don't admit it, your Wang family might be gone today. As long as Zhou Xiaoduo says something, someone will immediately come to enforce the law impartially, and seal the Wang family's warehouse, allowing Zhou Xiaoduo to go in and find his own things. This is a done deal. Well, the Wang family had such an experience before. Of course, it was always the Wang family who went into other people's warehouses to search for the things they wanted. Fine, I admit it. Wang Han gritted his teeth. I hope young Masters would keep his word. After you find what belongs to you, don't cause any more trouble. Zhou Xiaoduo was displeased. He said, Wang family head, who are you looking down on? Am I, Zhou Xiaoduo, that kind of person? He said with a righteous face, how am I causing trouble? I'm the owner. Justice is in the heart of the people. How can black and white be mixed up? Wang Han only felt that his vision was turning black. What a good question. Are you, Zhou Xiaoduo, that kind of person? What do you think? Can't you have some self-awareness in your heart? He gritted his teeth and said nothing. He waved his hand and ordered, housekeeper, open the warehouse. Zhou Xiaoduo turned his head and said, Lu family head, why do I hear that your family has lost a lot of things? Lu Yingfeng almost laughed out loud. He hurriedly held it in and said, yes, we have lost a lot of things over the years and haven't found them. The other party is so powerful that the Lu family can't get them back. Are there any markings on those things? Yes, there are. We have lost a lot of things in the past and hope to find them one day. Naturally, there are markings, but what's the use of just having markings? How is it useless? Let's go in and look for them together later. Since my lost red spider lily is in the hands of the Wang family, maybe your lost things are also in the hands of the Wang family. But you have to be honest. Don't take things that don't belong to your family. Of course. Lu Yingfeng looked relieved. It's all thanks to young Master Zhua. Otherwise, my family's ancestral property would never be returned. Wang Han spat out another mouthful of blood. Please, the warehouse door is already open. Wang Han really didn't want to say another word to these two shameless people. Whatever, take whatever you want. As long as you can leave quickly today. I'm willing to give up everything. Let's go quickly. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed, stood up and walked forward. Li Chenglong muttered as he walked, what kind of fucking world is this? How can he be so righteous when he's a thief? Have some shame, can't he have some shame? Look at his face, it's as if we're here to blackmail him. I really can't stand it. Are people so shameless nowadays? I've lived long enough to see this. Chapter 12:27. Li Chenglong mumbled to himself as he walked. I can't believe there's such a shameless person in this world. There are all kinds of people in this world. He's so hesitant to open a storeroom. There's solid evidence, but he still refuses to admit it. It's fine if he doesn't admit it, but he agreed to let us in to take it. He's so arrogant. Arrogant. My horizons have been broadened today. Wang Han walked quickly at the front, keeping a distance from Li Chenglong. He was really afraid that he would die from anger. However, when Li Chenglong saw that he was far away, he infused his voice with spiritual energy. Instantly, his voice boomed like a loudspeaker in the Wang family mansion. Everyone in the Wang family was trembling with anger that they watched as Zhou Xiaoduo and the others entered the storeroom. Of course, the Wang family had more than one storeroom. That was for sure. Even the items stored in this storeroom were not the real treasures of the Wang family. However, Zhou Xiaoduo also knew that it was not easy for the Wang family to open this storeroom. In other words, this was the Wang family's bottom line. After entering, they were greeted by a pile of top-grade jade of astral souls. Found it? It's really here. Zhou Xiaoduo cheered. These are all from my family. I remember it clearly. My family's items all have my family's aura. My family's star soul jades all have spiritual energy. And there are even fingerprints on them. He casually grabbed a piece and said, go and check this piece. See if there are any fingerprints on it and if there's any spiritual energy in it. These are all solid evidence. We can't erase them. The few people from the Wang clan who came in with him were so angry that they were bewildered. Then they saw Zhou Xiaoduo walking in. The herbs here are also from my family. There's spiritual energy and fingerprints. I even peed on them when I was young. The smell of urine may have dissipated, but there's a 99% chance that my aura is still there. This pile looks familiar. It looks like the ones my family lost. I have to touch it to see if there are any fingerprints on it. Most likely there are. Yes, these weapons clearly belong to my family. My fingerprints are on them. I took a closer look and my face is on them. Wang Han was so angry that his chest felt stuffy. He clutched his chest and sat down. Forget it. I won't go with you. I'll just wait here. Just take whatever you like. You can do whatever you want. In any case, I don't want to listen to you anymore. However, Li Chenglong's voice grew louder and louder. The Wang family is really shameless. So many lost items are actually in their house. Look, haven't we found them? Just now, they still had the guts to say that they didn't steal anything. It's only because boss is benevolent. If we were to report this to the police, what good would the Wang clan have? How shameless. Sure enough, the original capital accumulation of the big aristocratic families is bloody and illegal. The Wang clan has stolen so much from our home alone. How infuriating. These should belong to the Lu clan. Look, there are markings on them. These herbs are split into two, clearly representing the Lu clan. This is the guidance of the heavens. I can't stand some people's shamelessness. This should also belong to the Lu clan. Master Lu, take one and see if there are any fingerprints on it. These weapons definitely belong to the Lu clan. Fingerprint verification. Master Lu, touch it and see if there are any fingerprints on it. These pills belong to my family. And there are even Lu clan's pills among them? These few star cores definitely belong to my family. Other than my family, there are no other places. If there are other places, then they must have been stolen from my family. It's an extremely simple deduction. No wonder my Flaming Sun Sutra hasn't made any progress for so long. So the Flaming Sun Stone that aids my cultivation has been stolen here. How vicious. Yet there are so many Nian cats here. I was wondering why her extreme cold Shen ice was gone. So it was here. Did you recognize the wrong person? There's no mistaking it. This is emitting Yin Yin Cat's exclusive ice-cold aura. These herbs look so familiar. They belong to my family. That's also my family. This belongs to the Liu clan, right? It belongs to the Liu clan, right? Master Liu, your clan is the same as ours. Both of you are not strict enough. Besides, there's nothing we can do. They are strong in martial arts and tyrannical in power. It's already a blessing for us to be able to find the lost items. If we insist on asking for more, I'm afraid we will be silenced. They are the clan of the god of war. Their glory is limitless. Destroying small fries like us is nothing to them. Does this frame belong to the Liu clan? Damn it. How much did the Wang clan steal? Looking at this wall now, it looks like it belongs to my family. Finally, under everyone's watchful eyes, Zhuo Duo and the others walked out of the warehouse in a single file. Wang Han looked into the warehouse with a hopeless expression. Suddenly, his vision turned black and he almost fainted. Such a huge warehouse had been emptied. Yes, it was empty. It was completely empty. Even the countless iron frames were gone. Now this warehouse had really been emptied. It could be said that even a mouse would have to come out with 2 streams of tears in its eyes. Zhuo Duo and Li Chenglong, who were walking out, were still muttering regretfully. There are still so many good things that haven't been found. Those precious treasures of heaven and earth, divine weapons, must have been hidden away. This is a reasonable thing. But what we found today is only worth a little. What's worth? The ones that we didn't find are the real good stuff. You should be happy that we can find these things. But the Wang clan is clearly perfunctory with us. Damn it. There are actually such shameless people in this world. Butler Swollen, how many things have we not found? I don't care about these things. I can't remember clearly, Zhuo Duo said. Just the things that you mentioned in the past, we have recovered less than 1/10 of the total. And this time we have recovered all the common goods. There are no high-quality goods to speak of. Sigh. Li Chenglong sighed as if he was extremely distressed. Damn, only 1/10 of the goods? Still not enough? How many good things have been stolen from our family? Why don't you think about it? Our family is worthy of its name. It is the real #1 family in the world. How can we not have good things? How can we not have good things? How can uncle and auntie not give you good things? Yes, that does make sense. Then Zhuo Duo turned around and said, Master Wang. Wang Han stood up shakily and said, Young masters, what these things have been returned to their rightful owners. Today's matter, is it okay? Wang Han, the master of the Wang clan, looked as if he had aged a few decades in this short period of time. The wrinkles on his face had deepened. Zhuo Duo said, but there are still a lot of lost items that haven't been found yet. I've only recovered less than 1/10 of the items. Look at Patriarch Lu's worried face. The amount that we've recovered is definitely far from enough. But our Wang clan only has this one warehouse. There is nothing else. Were you lying to TSK? Do you think I will believe you? My family has 400 to 500 warehouses. Wang Han wanted to say, who are you lying to? Show me the 400 to 500 warehouses in your family. Hurry up, open the other warehouses as well. We have to continue to prove it. We will not touch anything that has nothing to do with us. If there is no evidence, we will not touch it. I have already said so. I'm very sincere, right? Zhuo Duo urged. But our Wang clan only has this one warehouse. Wang Han swore. He insisted that his family only had this one warehouse. That can't be right. Zhuo Duo's eyes were full of distrust. You clearly said that your family has a lot of spider lilies. Why didn't I see any in the warehouse? The Wang clan definitely has more than one warehouse. Wang Han. Now you understand. You took one and still think it is not enough. Seeing that this guy was not going to leave until he gave it to him, Wang Han waved his hand with a headache. Housekeeper, go to my study and bring the 2 jade boxes with the spider lilies. Let young masters would take them away. Take it as a token of my appreciation. What do you mean by a token of your appreciation? Those are clearly mine. My dad told me that only our family has these things. As for the others, Zhuo Duo rolled his eyes. He might as well use the tiger's skin as a flag. Fine. They are all yours. Wang Han was getting weaker and weaker. This young man in front of him had even dragged the minister into this matter. How could he argue? Coming out to receive them this time was the most regrettable thing in Wang Han's life. If he had known this would happen, he would not have come out no matter what. He could have just sent someone to receive them. He was so angry that he almost fainted. He was so angry that he almost died. You said it yourself. And so, Zhuo Duo took 2 more spider lilies. While he was admiring the Wang clan's long history and deep heritage, he also felt that there was a flaw in this otherwise perfect situation. My family has lost them before. Young masters, what the heavens are watching. Enough is enough. Wang Han's lips were trembling uncontrollably. Are you not done yet? Let me ask you, has your family ever lost a Wang clan? Have you? Li Chenglong was still blabbering on, but Zhou Xiaoduo already knew that this was the Wang clan's limit. If they continued to drag it out, they would not be able to do anything if they insisted that they did not. After all, it was not yet time to fall out with them. Especially since they could not waste so much time here, the gains would not make up for the losses. Since today's blackmail was successful and the humiliation was in place, this was about it. Ha ha ha. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed. That's it then, Master Wang. I will take my family's things and leave. Seeing that we are all from the same place in the Astral Soul's mainland, I will not report this matter to the police. This will save you some trouble. Even if the Wang clan is the war god's clan and has not lost its glory, there is no need to be labeled as a thief. Wang Han's face darkened as if he was about to vomit blood. Thank you very much for your magnanimity, young Master Zhua. Chapter 12:28. Li Chenglong muttered, there's a lot of evidence in hand and you're just going to let it go? Boss, you're too magnanimous. I have to say a few words to you. Even if you don't care about these odds and ends, there are still a lot of high-quality resources. In my opinion, you should capture them all. What glory of the god of war. There's such a big bandit family in Shangjing. I feel deeply worried about the safety of the lives and property of the people of Shangjing. Taking people's things. Humph. Too shameless. Too shameless. I can't stand it anymore. Intolerable. There are actually such shameless people in this world. This is really an eye-opener for me. There are all kinds of strange things in this world. This is really too easy for them. Wang Han could no longer endure it. A mouthful of blood rushed to his throat, but he finally understood the current situation and swallowed it back down with a gulp. He knew that if he really vomited blood, not only would he be ridiculed by the people in front of him, but he was afraid that there would be waves again. The Wang family head was starting to act again. He was really a good actor. Could it be that he was going to stage a venomous slander? Long Yuxing and the others saw all of this. They tried hard to hold back their laughter, but their stomachs were hurting. As they were about to go out, everyone suddenly found a white-haired old man in front of the door. He looked old and senile, as if he would fall to the ground if the wind blew. This old man was wearing a green robe. He was bent over, leaning on an armchair. In his hand was a sword, a sheathed long sword. At this moment he was rolling his eyes, looking at Zhou Xiaoduo. He gasped and said, You are Zhou Xiaoduo? Are you a descendant of the minister? Who are you? Zhou Xiaoduo tilted his head and frowned. Who am I? The old man took a deep breath and said, I am Wang Lingyun. Wang Lingyun? Zhou Xiaoduo said that he had never heard of it. However, Li Chenglong's expression changed and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Wang Lingyun is the eldest grandson of Senior Wang Feihong, the heavenly king of startling heavens. He's also the founder of the Wang clan. Back then, when Heavenly King Wang passed away, he left behind an only son. He raised 7 children and Wang Lingyun was the eldest. He single-handedly established the Wang clan, and it continues to this day. This old man is the Wang family's oldest surviving ancestor. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded, indicating that he understood. Wang Lingyun, right? Why are you sitting here? What do you want? Zhou Xiaoduo asked condescendingly. After knowing his identity, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't dare to address him casually anymore. He chose to call him by his name. Although this old man's age was obvious, even if Heavenly King Jinghong was of the same generation as Zhou Changlu, his eldest grandson Wang Lingyun was still a generation younger than Zhou Xiaoduo. Wang Lingyun was at most a third-generation descendant, but Zhou Xiaoduo lived up to his name. He was a pure second-generation descendant. Therefore, Wang Lingyun couldn't even use the title of Old Master Wang in front of Zhou Xiaoduo. You slandered my Wang clan for stealing for no reason. You used the name of the minister to blackmail my clan. Do you know how much damage this will cause to Grandpa Zhuo's reputation? Wang Lingyun rolled his eyes and glared at Zhou Xiaoduo. His voice was already weak and he panted for a while after each sentence. After a long while he finally finished his sentence. Then, he raised the sheathed sword in his hand and said indifferently, I may not have the right to control you, but even Grandpa Zhuo would feel sad if he saw this sword. This is the sword of Heavenly King Jinghong, the Jinghong sword. It was given to my ancestor by the minister. Wang Lingyun said angrily, Zuoxiao Duo, if you know what's good for you, leave the sword behind. My Wang clan can give you a gift in return. We are close friends and I don't want to make things too unpleasant. Otherwise what? Zuoxiao Duo said indifferently, what do you want? Wang Lingyun trembled as he tried to stand up. But he was unable to do so. He gasped for breath repeatedly. After a long while he said, Zuoxiao Duo, are you really going to disregard the minister's reputation for petty profits? This is the minister's reputation. Zuoxiao Duo was silent for a while. He could see the anger and disappointment in this old man's eyes. Finally his heart softened and he said, Wang Lingyun, you look like you haven't been out for a long time. You haven't touched anything outside, right? Wang Lingyun was stunned when he heard this. What do you mean? You said I tarnished the minister's reputation, but how much do you know about the current situation of the Wang clan? Zuoxiao Duo said coldly, do you know why I'm here today? What's the reason? Do you know why I didn't go to another clan? Why did I come to your Wang clan to do things? Do you know why? Wang Lingyun was stunned. He only knew that a descendant had gone in to complain about how Zuoxiao Duo had bullied the Wang clan. Now the Wang clan had been wronged to death. So he came out in a fit of anger. But he didn't know the inside story at all. He turned to look at the Wang clan members around him. He looked at them one by one and finally stopped on Wang Han's face. After a long time he said uncertainly, Who are you? Are you the current clan head of the Wang clan? What's your name? He didn't know Wang Han, but he recognized the clan head's robe and accessories. Wang Han stepped forward and knelt. Ancestor, I am Wang Han, the current clan head of the Wang clan. Wang Lingyun didn't speak. He closed his eyes and thought for a long time. Then he muttered, You said that the descendant of the sky inspecting minister came to our Wang clan to extort money. And didn't stop even after emptying the warehouse. Is there such a thing? Wang Han took a deep breath and said, Yes, there is such a thing. This is the truth. Wang Lingyun took a deep breath and said, Is Grandpa Minister still alive? Li Chenglong said loudly from the side, The sky inspecting minister is now recognized by the 3 continents as the #1 expert on the same level as the Flood Witch. His power can suppress the universe and his spirit can reach the heavens. A few days ago the 3 continents fought the Flood Witch in front of hundreds of millions of troops, and they were evenly matched. Wang Lingyun's eyes were filled with tears. He muttered, Grandpa Zhua is still the pillar of the Astral Souls continent. Congratulations. Then he fell silent. There were many things that were too clear. The minister was still alive and the #1 expert in the world. Then who did Zuoxiao Duo need to extort money from? He didn't even need to open his mouth to ask. He only needed to sit at home and wait for the gifts to arrive. As long as he was willing to accept them. Then how could he come to the Wang clan this time to extort money? Wang Lingyun was silent for a long time. Then he said coldly, What did the Wang clan do? What did we do wrong? Why did someone come to our house like this? He wasn't asking Zuoxiao Duo but Wang Han. Wang Han's face changed. He kowtowed but didn't say anything. Wang Lingyun's expression became complicated. He couldn't stand still anymore. He slowly fell on the chair and hugged the startled sword to his chest. He sighed. After a long time he said, The minister is still alive and his power shakes the world. Wang Han, what is so special about our Wang clan that the minister's descendant would come to the Wang clan to extort money from us? What treasure does the Wang clan have that even the minister's descendant would covet? Why would he come to extort money in broad daylight? Wang Lingyun said weakly, He is still here. Obviously he hasn't had his fill yet. Take it out and let me see. Wang Han didn't dare to speak. He was still silent for a long time. Wang Lingyun murmured, Well, you can tell me directly. This old man is very curious. Our Wang clan actually has something that could catch the eye of the minister's descendant, and covet it. This is a great honor. Wang Han and the rest still didn't answer. Wang Lingyun suddenly shouted, Take it out. This old man wants to see. He opened his eyes. Even though he was old beyond recognition, he still exuded a powerful aura that soared into the sky with a loud roar. His eyes were shining so brightly that no one dared to look at him directly. The tiger was old but its majesty was still there. Wang Han trembled all over. He still didn't say anything. He couldn't defend himself and didn't dare to. At this time a descendant of the Wang clan couldn't help but say, Zuoxiao Duo took away our red spider lily, all our top-grade jade of astral souls, countless heavenly treasures, the heart of stars. Even the iron shelves in the warehouse were taken away. Wang Lingyun was silent as if he didn't hear anything. He just looked at Wang Han and said lightly, "Are the Wang clan's rules already like this? The person I asked hasn't replied yet, but there's someone beside me who speaks so quickly?" He waved his hand tiredly and said lightly, "Drag this one away and punish him according to the clan's rules. After the punishment, drag him back for me to see." The people beside him didn't move. Wang Han hurriedly shouted, "Didn't you hear the elder ancestor? Drag him away. Beat him." Immediately, two people dragged the speaker away. Then there was the sound of a board being beaten. Wang Lingyun's eyes were still fixed on Wang Han, but there was a layer of darkness in his eyes. "But," Wang Lingyun said. Wang Han lowered his head and said, "It's like this, elder ancestor." "Ha ha ha." Wang Lingyun suddenly laughed mockingly. Then he looked at Zhuo Duo with a disheartened expression. After a while he said in a low voice, "Zhuo Duo, how should I address you?" Zhuo Duo was silent for a moment and said, "According to seniority, you should call me uncle. You should call me uncle." This sentence was like a bolt from the blue suddenly ringing out. At this moment, the faces of all the Wang clan members were dead silent. There was no color in their faces. This sentence was full of meaning, or it could be said that it was too clear. Wang Lingyun's eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly struggled to stand up and was about to kneel down. Zhuo Duo hurriedly supported him. "Let me kneel down." Wang Lingyun begged. "In the world, no one dares to pretend to be this person. Since the identity is real, I can't lack etiquette. This is human relations, this is friendship. There's no need. I don't want to have any relationship with the Wang clan," Zhuo Duo said lightly. Wang Lingyun smiled bitterly. "I understand." He looked at Zhuo Duo and begged, "Can you let me talk to Grandpa Zhuo or Grandma Zhuo?" "No. I just want to hear the voices of the elders." Wang Lingyun trembled and begged, "I'm going to die. Grandma Zhuo. She held me when I was young." Chapter 12:29. Zhuo Duo was silent for a long time. "Just say that. I stopped you and wouldn't let you go. I want to hear what Grandma Zhuo has to say." "Just a few words will do," Wang Lingyun said. Zhuo Duo understood. The old woman still had a glimmer of hope in her heart, or rather, a glimmer of unwillingness. Zhuo Duo took out his phone expressionlessly, dialed Wu Yuding's number and put it on speaker. "Mom. What's the matter?" Wu Yuding's voice came from the other end. "The Wang family stole something from our family. I came to take it but they wouldn't let me go," Zhuo Duo said. "How dare they?" Wu Yuding said angrily. "They stole from our family and they want to just let it go? What did they steal? Let them pay back 10 times. The mother and son cooperated well. Wu Yuding knew that her son was using the tiger's skin as an excuse to make a big deal out of it. But since it was her son who was causing trouble as a mother, she naturally had to cooperate perfectly. On the other side, Wang Lingyun's tears fell. She sobbed and said, "Grandma Zhuo. It's Xiao Yin'er." On the other end of the phone, Wu Yuding's voice paused. "Xiao Yin'er? Are you still alive?" "Grandma Zhuo. It's me." Wang Lingyun wailed. "Xiao Yin'er." Wu Yuding sighed and said, "How many years have you been away from the world?" "It's been more than 4,000 years. 4,800 years." Wang Lingyun sobbed and said, "Since Ling passed away, I've been away from the world. Well, before that, I didn't care about anything." Wu Yuding sighed faintly. "So you don't know anything about what happened all these years?" "I don't know." Wu Yuding's voice came. "Xiao Duo." "Yes." "Take Wang Lingyun out." Wu Yuding sighed and said, "Don't forget to bring the startling sword." This. Zhuo Duo was stunned. Taking away someone else's ancestor in their home. What was that supposed to mean? How could Wang Han and the others be willing to let their final protective talisman be taken away? "If you can't take him away, I'll send you Dong Tian and Yun Zhonghu over. They have the ability to take him away." Wu Yuding's voice sounded faintly. Yes, not only did they have the ability to take people away, they also had the ability to wipe out the Wang family in an instant. The heavenly kings of the left and right had both arrived. When Wang Han and Wang Zhong heard this message, their faces turned ashen. From today onwards, Wang Lingyun is no longer related to the Wang clan. Wu Yuding said, "Xiao Yun, are you willing?" Wang Lingyun sobbed, "I'm willing." "Grandma Zhuo, can I ask?" "What?" Wu Yuding said indifferently, "Your uncle will naturally tell you later. Things in the world are unpredictable and karma is never pleasant." With that she hung up the phone. Wang Lingyun burst into tears. like an orphan who had been separated for thousands of years suddenly reunited with his family. Although she had only heard his voice, her heart was already surging with emotions. She couldn't stop the urge to cry. Wang Lingyun was an old man who had lived for more than 10,000 years, and the flame of his life had reached the end and was about to be extinguished. However, the admiration at this moment was so overwhelming that it was difficult to suppress it. "What do you say?" Zhou Xiaoduo asked. "I'll go with you," Wang Lingyun replied without any hesitation. "Ancestor." Everyone in the Wang family knelt down neatly. Wang Lingyun took a deep breath and said, "I'll go and see what you've done." "You're really unforgivable. Then I won't come back. Don't tarnish the ancestors' glory anymore. I'll take the startling sword away. If there's still room for redemption, I'll beg Grandma Zhou to let me come back with the startling sword." Wang Lingyun said resolutely, "Don't kneel. You're destined to not be able to keep me. Don't even recognize you anymore." Wang Han took a few steps forward on his knees, looked up and cried, "Ancestor. Didn't you hear what Grandma Zhou said?" Wang Lingyun said coldly, "Don't tell me. You want the left and right heavenly kings to come and take me away?" Wang Han lowered his head and lay on the ground, crying loudly as if his father had died. No, even if his father had died, a sly old fox like him would most likely not be so pitiful and miserable in his 7 emotions. When Zhou Xiaoduo and the others pushed Wang Lingyun out of the Wang family in a wheelchair, only the sound of crying could be heard behind them. Everyone from the Wang clan was kneeling on the ground. They were all covered in dust and their eyes were filled with despair. They knew very well. Today Wang Lingyun had left with the startling sword, and the Wang family had lost their last hope. The dying Wang Lingyun was not the Wang family's last hope. The real hope was the startling sword in his hand. The War God sword. That was the trump card that could save the Wang family. It was also the last mark left by the War God of the continent, Wang Feihong. If one person and sword left the Wang family at the same time, they would lose their last trump card. However, no one dared to say anything at this moment. No one dared to say a word. The minister madam had said very clearly that if Zhou Xiaoduo could not do it, she would immediately send the left and right heavenly kings over. With just one order, the left and right heavenly kings would arrive here in half an hour. Even at the peak of the Wang family would not be able to resist the combined power of the 2 heavenly kings, not to mention the Wang family that was now in a precarious situation. He would definitely leave. Looking at the old figure that was like a candle in the wind slowly walking to the door and leaving the Wang family mansion, Wang Han could not help but be filled with hatred. He could not hold it in anymore. He said loudly, "Ancestor, I have something to say." Wang Lingyun's withered face twitched. He patted Long Yuxing's hand that was pushing the wheelchair and turned around. "Speak." Wang Han stood up suddenly, straightened his back, looked at Wang Lingyun and said loudly, "Wang Han is not talented, but as the current head of the Wang family, now that Ancestor has decided to leave, I would like to represent all the descendants of the Wang family to ask Ancestor a question." The withered look in Wang Lingyun's eyes did not change, like a pool of stagnant water. He said lightly, "Ask." "May I ask Ancestor, since Ancestor has broken out of the door today, does Ancestor intend to completely cut ties with the Wang family? You even took away the startling sword that the descendants of the Wang family rely on as their life support and the greatest glory. Have you ever thought about the future generations of the Wang family, not even a little bit?" Wang Han's face was filled with grief and anger as he questioned loudly. Zhou Xiaoduo was furious and was about to refute. Wang Lingyun slowly raised his withered hand and stopped Zhou Xiaoduo's hand. He said gently, "Little uncle, let me solve the Wang family's problem. You have to pay for what you have done. As Grandma Zhou said, the world is unpredictable and karma is never good." He turned his indifferent gaze to Wang Han's face and said indifferently, "I understand the meaning of your words. Do you think that the Wang family will lose its strongest protection if the startling sword leaves the Wang family?" Although it was embarrassing, Wang Han had no choice. He raised his head and said, "Yes. If the startling sword leaves, the Wang family will be finished. Ancestor, please show mercy and give the descendants a chance to live." Wang Lingyun did not speak for a long time. After a long time he coughed and said, "So you have really done things to the extreme." Wang Han lowered his head and did not speak. "So you have really made a big mistake to the point where you need the ancestors' help to save your life. That's why you told me today that the minister's descendant came to provoke you and asked me to step in. Indeed, everything in the world has karma, and karma is not unpredictable." Wang Lingyun sighed. "Ancestor, please show mercy. The Wang family members shouted in unison. In order to survive, they did not care about their reputation anymore. Wang Lingyun's withered face showed a mocking expression. He held the startling sword with both hands and said lightly, "You should all know that a magical sword has a spirit, right? Back then my ancestor wielded a sword in white. One man and one sword, he killed all the heroes in the world. He never bowed, he never retreated. He would rather break than bend, he would rather die than retreat. That was my ancestor's illustrious name." Wang Lingyun's gaze was distant, as if he saw his grandfather Wang Feihong, who was dressed in white like a sword. In all his memories, he had never seen his grandfather's white robe stained with dust, and he had never seen his grandfather bend his back for even a second. He was always so proud and upright, looking down on the world. He was dressed in white under the cold sky. He chilled the 3 continents with one sword. Heavenly King Jinghong. Wang Lingyun recited slowly, full of coldness, white robe stained, on the peak of the ice mountain, proud and elegant sword. The entire place was silent. Although they did not have a good impression of the current Wang family, Zhou Xiaoduo and the others could still feel their blood boiling when they heard about Heavenly King Jinghong's deeds. It was as if they could see that proud and aloof swordsman in white robe. When there was no one left to fight, he came out alone with his sword. One man and one sword, he faced the countless Heavenly King experts of the Umno Alliance and proudly challenged them. "If you can defeat me, Wang Feihong, you will win." His proud and upright body did not bend even when he died. He would rather turn into a bright star than accept the defeat that would determine the fate of the continent. That earth-shattering explosion still reverberated in the hearts of generations of the Star Soul continent's ancestors until this day. Back then, my ancestor fought against the heavenly kings of the world alone. He used this Jinghong sword. Wang Lingyun looked at the sword in his hand. "This sword is as proud as my ancestor. You want it to protect you? Let's not talk about whether you deserve it or not. Dare you ask it if it is willing?" Wang Lingyun's voice was as calm as water, but his old face slowly turned red with anger. It was obvious that his heart was not calm and he was extremely angry. He pulled out the sword with all his might. Light flashed, and it was as if all the frost in the world had descended at this moment. This was the power of the sword itself. After Wang Lingyun pulled the sword out of its sheath, he threw it out. The long sword somersaulted in the air a few times, and light shone in all directions before it landed on the ground with a clang. The tip of the sword stabbed into the hard ground of the Wang family's old residence. The long sword flickered and swayed slightly. Although it was just a sword, although it no longer had an owner. However, this sword was still as aloof and proud as ever. Stabbed into the ground, it was still at the peak of the ice mountain, looking down on the world and shocking the world. Cold and arrogant, no one was worthy of being associated with it. The sword swayed and the frost was still cold. A sense of anticipation was faintly emitted. It was as if it was waiting for its owner's big hands to come and hold the sword hilt again. "Come and hold me. I will accompany you to fight the heroes of the world again. Come quickly." After a long time, the sword finally stopped swaying, but the feeling of anticipation had gradually vanished, and it transformed into a feeling of loneliness and sorrow. It was filled with a feeling of loss and sadness, and it effused out from the sword. "Where did you go? Why didn't you come?" After losing its partner, the Jinghong sword had been lonely until now. Now that it was out of its sheath again, it was still sharp, still cold, still radiant, and still full of fighting spirit. It wanted to fight the world again, but it no longer had that person to accompany it in the martial world. Clang, clang, clang. The Jinghong sword let out 3 sorrowful sword cries. Chapter 1230. Clang, clang, clang. The startling sword let out 3 sorrowful sword cries. The glow of the sword slowly retracted and there was an endless sense of loss and silence. Just like an abandoned puppy, it curled up in the corner. Wang Lingyun looked at the startling sword and said word by word, "Wang Han, can you ask the startling sword if it is willing to be your shield for your mistakes?" Wang Han looked at the motionless startling sword and took a step forward. Just as he was about to speak, clang. A loud and clear sword chime suddenly rang out, coming from the startling sword. Everyone present could hear the uncontrollable anger in this sword hum. It was a kind of extreme shame and humiliation that couldn't be any stronger surging emotions. This caused everyone present to feel the same way, and they were indescribably shocked. With a flash of light, the startling sword that was clearly not controlled by anyone pulled itself out from the ground and spun in the air. The sword light shot out in all directions and stopped steadily in midair. The tip of the sword was pointed at Wang Han's glabella. A massive sword intent that was filled with humiliation, anger and irritation suddenly spread out. The sword could not speak, but at this moment, everyone could feel its meaning. It was clear. Don't use such things to humiliate me. That was what the startling sword wanted to say. There was no doubt about it. Wang Han stood rooted to the ground and stared at the startling sword. His body was stiff and he could not speak. Wang Lingyun sighed deeply and moved the scabbard in his hand. In midair, the startling sword let out a sword cry, as if it was still angry. With a spin, it returned to its scabbard with a soft sound and returned to silence. The sharpness of the sword that challenged the world also disappeared quietly and turned into loneliness. Wang Lingyun burst into tears and stroked the startling sword. He choked and said, "The startling sword was unsheathed this time and did not find its ancestor. It returned to its scabbard in disappointment. I'm afraid it will never be willing to come out of its scabbard again." Zhou Xiaoduo and the others sighed softly. Looking at the startling sword that was shrouded in a deathly atmosphere, they felt complicated but did not know what it was. Although they were young geniuses with outstanding cultivations, their life experiences were still shallow. They were unable to experience the loneliness of 10,000 years. Once, the man and the sword were one, and they had promised each other that they would never leave each other. Now the sword was still there but the man was gone. Wang Lingyun turned his wheelchair around. He really couldn't bear to look at these unfilial descendants anymore. Ancestor. Behind him, the Wang family members cried out mournfully. Wang Lingyun never looked back. The Wang clan is no longer mine. The Wang clan is yours. Before my grandfather died in battle, he asked a few of his close friends to take care of the Gu family's descendants. At that time his grandfather had said, "This war requires sacrifices. If we don't sacrifice blood to the heavens, how can we achieve peace? The two of you are the pillars of the astral souls and cannot be lost. If this battle requires someone of sufficient weight to die, then I, as the first in line, will be the one to do it. If anything happens to me in this battle, I'll have to rely on my brothers to take care of the Wang family." Wang Lingyun said indifferently, "Is this all you remember? No, or should I say that's all you remember?" These words were well known throughout the entire continent. Who didn't know of Heavenly King Wang's heroic deeds? Not to mention that the Wang clan had spread it intentionally or unintentionally. Could be said that everyone knew about it. Back then, when the minister and the emperor sent the ancestor back, they deliberately spread these words to the world, but they concealed the last part of the ancestor's will. The minister and the emperor did not say it for the sake of the Wang clan. But the ancestor's will is still engraved in the ancestral hall. Don't you remember? You just don't want to remember, or you don't want others to remember or know. Wang Lingyun said in a low voice, "Whether you remember or not is irrelevant because I still remember. I'll read it to you now. The remaining part is, if my descendants do well, brothers, help me out. If they don't and use my meager contributions to bring disaster to the continent, please eliminate them as soon as possible. I, Wang Feihong, am a hero of my generation. I believe that I'm not ordinary. Don't let my unfilial descendants tarnish my name. I'm fighting for the world, not to be a protective umbrella for the little brats. If my descendants are unavoidable, don't wait until they're gone before you act. Remember that I, Wang Feihong, cannot afford to lose that face. The startling sword is enough to protect me for my entire life." Wang Lingyun stroked the startling sword in his hand lovingly. Hot tears rolled down his face as he said, "Wang Han, everyone of the Wang clan, don't tarnish my grandfather's illustrious name. Let's go." He pushed the wheelchair out. Long Yuxing hurriedly stepped forward and took over pushing the wheelchair toward the door. They walked until they were far away, but there was no more sound behind them. The countless Wang clan members behind them looked on in a daze. They knew clearly that the last barrier, the last protective talisman, had disappeared. Wang Lingyun sat in the wheelchair and looked at the scenery on both sides of the street listlessly. He wanted to see this world and recall the past, the places where he had walked hand in hand with his beloved wife. However, he hadn't left the Wang clan's old mansion for a long time. The outside had changed greatly. As far as the eye could see, it was strangely unfamiliar. It was a completely different world and he couldn't even recall the scenery. His white hair fluttered in the wind. His expression was blank and so was his gaze. A sense of desolation rose spontaneously. This is no longer the world that you and I are familiar with. From beginning to end, he didn't look back. After pushing him for more than 10 minutes, Wang Lingyun said softly, "Little uncle, let's hurry." Okay. Zuo picked up the wheelchair. Everyone jumped up and returned to Zuo small courtyard as fast as lightning. Before leaving, Zuo only wanted to bully and humiliate the other party. He never thought that he would actually invite the ancestor of the Wang clan back. Moreover, it was his mother who asked him to invite him back. Looking at Wang Lingyun sitting in the villa, Zuo couldn't help but have a headache. He didn't know what his mother was thinking. In short, he felt that everything was so strange. It was indescribable and indescribable. LV Yingfeng came to say goodbye. "Xiaoduo, I'm going back. Then take care. Take care of Grandma LV. I'll visit you in a few days." LV Yingfeng walked to the door and turned to say, "Xiaoduo, I've put the spatial rings of those things in the cracks of the sofa. Use them well and improve quickly." Xiaoduo was stunned. "What are you doing? That was for you in the first place." LV Yingfeng shook his head and waved his hand. "The LV family doesn't need so many resources. You're all Qian. You're all good children that your old principal thinks highly of. As long as I can see you improve and achieve more, I'll be satisfied." He looked at Xiaoduo and the others kindly and said with relief, "I've already benefited greatly from the fact that you thought of inviting me along today. Xiaoduo, although the LV family may not have the ability, this old man still wants to continue to cultivate the genius that my daughter fancies, and cultivate the person she painstakingly cares about in her life. Remember to work hard." LV Yingfeng smiled, turned around and walked out of the door. Xiaoduo and the others were all excited. Receiving LV Yingfeng's heartfelt praise was no different from receiving the old principal's praise. For Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong, this was happier than any praise. Wang Lingyun looked at LV Yingfeng's back with admiration in her eyes. She praised, "Who is this person? His open-mindedness is the best in the world." Xiaoduo and the others had the same thought, but they missed Yuanyue even more than they rejoiced. Li Chenglong and the others wanted to talk to Wang Lingyun, but Wang Lingyun was not willing to do so. "Right now, I urgently want to know what exactly the Wang clan has done." Wang Lingyun looked at Xiaoduo with her sunken eyes and pleaded, "Little uncle, let me see." Okay. Xiaoduo sighed and gestured for Li Chenglong to give him the information. Li Chenglong thought for a while and began to organize the information. He divided all the information into 3 parts, and gradually let Wang Lingyun understand them one by one. Wang Lingyun couldn't wait to pick up the first book with trembling hands. Xiaoduo gave Li Chenglong a look, and Li Chenglong expressed his understanding. He already had a few bottles of heaven's turning water in his hand. If Wang Lingyun became emotional and something happened, he would immediately take it to protect her. Then, Xiaoduo read Wang Lingyun's fortune. His heart sank and he slipped out to call Wu Yuding. "Mom." "Yes, you picked him up?" "Yes." "Good. But because of this, your identity is almost exposed. Basically, you know everything you need to know. What do you think? Puppy? Are you ready to be a rich second generation? This seems to be your biggest wish in life." Wu Yuding joked with her son. "Mom," Xiaoduo said with a bitter face, "I've been risking my life every day. How can I enjoy being a rich second generation at all?" Wu Yuding laughed. "Silly boy, let me tell you, this is what a rich second generation is really like. Do you think the second generation is just eating and waiting for death? Do you think our generation can only nurture rich playboys? Let me tell you, from ancient times until now, except for a very small number of people with mediocre talent who only have the ability to preserve their achievements, the rest are basically all exhausted to death. Being forced by their own parents to the point where they have nowhere to go, is nothing but a trivial matter. This is the real life of a rich second generation. Because of corruption and playboys, the real big families, the descendants of real heroes or the heirs of dynasties, all of them didn't start from the second generation. Because the first generation is wise and powerful. How can they allow their children to be playboys and corrupt? You want to be a salted fish when you're just a dog? You must be crazy." Wu Yuding's accent was very heavy. Xiaoduo smiled bitterly. How could he not understand this? But the second generation he had pinned his hopes on was never the second generation in this sense, okay? At least, it was completely different from the second generation he had pinned his hopes on. Well, is it because I'm too outstanding, too talented? So, it's my fault. Chapter 1231. Xiaoduo sighed. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have tried so hard to enter the path of cultivation. If that was the case, would he have been able to become a second-generation heir? that still wasn't right. If that was the case, Nyen Nyen Cat wouldn't be fated with him. Even if he was willing and Nyen Nyen Cat was willing, his parents wouldn't agree to it. Sigh, life is always so difficult to be perfect? While Zhuxiaoduo's thoughts were running wild, his mother's political class didn't stop. She had more to say and went on for a long time. I understand, Mom. You're calling to ask about Wang Lingyun, right? Yes. This is what your father and I wanted. Wang Feihong only had one son, but he died in battle early. Both husband and wife died at Sun Moon Pass. At that time, Wang Lingyun was only 7 years old. His younger siblings were even more immature. Wu Yuding sighed and said, Wang Feihong loved this grandson the most. Even when Wang Lingyun grew up and had children, Wang Feihong would still bring gifts for Wang Lingyun every time he returned from the battlefield. And his last words were very clear. It was enough to protect his grandson for the rest of his life with the Jinghong sword. In other words, the one Wang Feihong couldn't let go of the most was his grandson, only his grandson. Wu Yuding said, to be fair, Wang Lingyun didn't let Wang Feihong down. He lived a simple, conscientious and honest life. He built the Wang family single-handedly and maintained the Wang family's traditions for 3,000 years. At that time, the Wang family could be said to be the #1 family in astral souls. They did things openly and their traditions were stable and prudent. They didn't tarnish the name of the god of war for astral souls at all. But because of the death of his beloved wife, he was too sad and went into seclusion. After so many years, I thought he had already passed away. I didn't expect him to still be alive. Wu Yuding sighed and said, so you have to understand that the Wang family can be destroyed, but this Wang Lingyun, your father and I can't ignore him. I understand. Don't worry, Mom. How is Xiao Yin'er now? Wu Yuding asked with concern. Very bad. His entire body is thin and shriveled. Only a handful of bones are left. Zhuxiaoduo sighed and said, I don't have much lifespan left to begin with. After today, my lifespan will inevitably be reduced. Although we've already brought him out, it's hard to save him from the shadow of a candle in the wind. From what I've read, Wang Lingyun will pass away in half a month's time. It's not something that can be stopped by anyone. No matter how miraculous the elixirs are, it will be difficult to extend his lifespan. Half a month. On the other side of the phone, Wu Yuding suddenly fell silent. Then Zhuqianglu picked up the phone. Obviously, he had been listening by the side. Zhuqianglu's calm voice rang out, Xiao Duo. I'm here. Do you have a way to extend Wang Lingyun's life? I want to hear the truth. Yes, the heaven-mending stone can do it. Zhuxiaoduo gave an affirmative answer immediately. Then he said in distress, but the biggest problem now is Wang Lingyun himself. I can't see any signs of life in him. Just now, he strongly requested to see the Wang family's information and evidence. I'm worried that after he sees it, his remaining lifespan will be destroyed again. Zhuqianglu sighed and said, tell Wang Lingyun that I still want to see him. Tell him to hang in there. Okay. Perhaps this was the only way to let Wang Lingyun stay in this world for a little longer. There were too few things in this world that could move him. Zhuxiaoduo sighed. On the other side of the phone, Zhuqianglu and Wu Yuding also sighed. At this moment, a heart-wrenching roar came from the villa. I'm so angry. Then there was a loud bang. Zhuxiaoduo hurriedly said and immediately walked back. Don't hang up. Zhuqianglu said hurriedly, put it on speakerphone. In the room, Wang Lingyun's eyes were wide open. He stared at the file in front of him in disbelief. His whole body trembled and his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. His face was red and he roared hoarsely, These are really done by our Wang family? At this moment, the guilt and shame in the old man's heart reached the extreme and almost burst out. He had a premonition that the Wang family, which he had ignored for a long time, was rotten. They bullied people, dominated the market, killed people, and even interfered with the imperial court. After all, he had been in charge of the Wang family for 3,000 years. He had long been used to the filth of the world, but he had always kept his original heart. However, the more he read, the more frightened and cold he felt. The content recorded in the file was all kinds of immoral and bottomless, all kinds of heartless, all kinds of unimaginable, all kinds of inhumane things. It was actually done by the God of War family that I founded? The old man only felt his heart shattering bit by bit. His whole body was filled with cold and hot feelings. His mind was endless, but it also felt like thousands of things were happening at the same time, one after another. Li Chenglong opened a bottle of heaven's returning water and stepped forward to feed him the medicine. However, he was pulled to the side by Wang Lingyun. Wang Lingyun trembled and suddenly stood up. His eyes were red as he screamed, "This is my Wang family? This is my Wang family? This is the God of War family, the Wang family?" His fingers trembled and the file rustled. Suddenly his face turned red. How can I face grandfather in the underworld? How can I face? Suddenly he choked on his breath. His throat made gurgling sounds and his eyes bulged out. Li Chenglong screamed and hurriedly supported the old man. He forced the bottle of heaven's returning water down his throat. Wang Lingyun struggled violently and refused to take the medicine. It was obvious that he wanted to die. However, Li Chenglong didn't care about him at all and forced the medicine down his throat. "Oh my God! How can I face myself to continue living?" Wang Lingyun wailed, "The Wang family that I founded with my own hands. I thought that I inherited grandfather's great prestige and the glory of the God of War. However, after I ignored it, I let the family fall step by step into this state. I am full of sins, too many to record. I created a huge tumor for this continent. It harms the common people and is extremely poisonous." He screamed at the top of his lungs as tears streamed down his face. His hands slapped his head with all their might, making loud banging sounds. He never would have thought. There were countless things in the file. Every single one of them was the result of the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of the people. They were all evil deeds that couldn't be resolved even if they were chopped into pieces. As for the Wang clan, they actually made an entire thick book. It was truly too numerous to record and it was extremely poisonous. Is there more? Is there more? Wang Lingyun grabbed the file. "This is only from the past 20 years. What about before that? What about before that? Is this generation's clan head muddle-headed? What caused the Wang family to fall into such a state?" His eyes flashed with extreme desire. He hoped that he could get a definite answer. Li Chenglong said indifferently, "This is indeed only the file of the Wang family's misdeeds in the past 20 years. In my hands, I also have all the evidence of the Wang family's crimes in the past 3,000 years. The crimes of every 20 years are no less than this file. It's just that for the previous files, even the ancestors of the victims have all died. It's useless even if I show it to you. It's meaningless." Wang Lingyun slammed the table and shouted angrily, I want to see every single file. Show it to me." His eyes were already filled with dead silence and ashes. That was the appearance of someone who had nothing left to live for. Obviously, if the Wang Lingyun who had just arrived had a trace of hope, a trace of life, now he was in complete despair. He didn't want to live anymore. He muttered, "After I die, I want to go and ask grandfather for forgiveness. These mistakes. I want to say them all, report them one by one. I am a sinner. Show it to me. Show it to me." Li Chenglong saw that old master Wang Lingyun was already in a state of delirium. He was extremely worried that something bad would happen to him in the next second. Even if he had the water of reversal, it would be useless. However, who was Li Chenglong? His brain worked quickly and there was no one who could match him in this world. He could only think and come up with the idea of fighting poison with poison. He snorted coldly and said, "What are you shouting for? Aren't all these things done by your descendants? Aren't all these good things done by your children and grandchildren? How can you shout at me so righteously? Ordering me around? If all the files and evidence are taken out, this villa won't be able to fit them all. Can you look through them all alone? A month, a year, or the rest of your life?" Li Chenglong sneered. These words were extremely unpleasant, but it calmed Wang Lingyun down immediately. He also calmed down. His face was full of shame and shame. His whole body trembled. Suddenly he curled up on the sofa. He covered his face with his hands and cried silently. Drops of tears leaked out from between his fingers and dripped onto the Jinghong sword. The Jinghong sword still had no reaction. It was as if it was dead silent. At this moment a voice was heard, "Wang Lingyun, what do you want?" This familiar voice made Wang Lingyun tremble all over. He stood up instinctively and then stood at attention. "Grandfather Zhua." Zhua Changlu's voice came from the phone. "Look after your grandfather's Jinghong sword. Even if you want to die, you have to watch the evil family you created be eradicated. This malignant tumor still exists in this world. Do you want to die just like that? And all troubles? Look at the Jinghong sword in your hand. Think carefully about how to restore the reputation of the God of War." Zhua Changlu shouted, "The Wang family you created was never the God of War's family. Don't you understand this layer of cause and effect? Your grandfather only wants to protect you for the rest of his life. Do you know? You're no longer a member of the Wang family. You're just your grandfather's grandson. Do you understand? You're already so old. Crying all the time. Even if you don't find it embarrassing, I find it an eyesore. Zhou Changlu said angrily, your grandma Zhua and I can't go back now. You stay in Shangjing and look after your uncle. Don't make us worry. Can you do that? Chapter 1232. After a thunderous reprimand, Wang Lingyun finally calmed down with a face full of shame. After hanging up the phone, Wang Lingyun began to take the initiative to find medicine to stabilize his mind, calm his state of mind, and recuperate. He no longer wanted to die. On the contrary, he urgently wanted to live until the day he could see Grandpa Zhua and Grandma Zhua again. Zhou Xiaoduo was not lying when he said that he had the confidence to save Wang Lingyun's life. Wang Lingyun's lifespan was almost depleted and his body was in a terrible state. It was not something that could be healed by any kind of elixir. However, this was not a difficult task for Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo had infinite vitality and a huge amount of vitality given by Elder One. As long as he did not want someone to die, as long as he provided the target with enough vitality, the target would not die even if they wanted to. As for the crippled body, it was even simpler. Wasn't there still the heaven-mending stone? That was a sacred object that could heal even a heavenly king-stage powerhouse's body in an instant. Treating a person who was in the twilight of his life was just a small feat. Zhou Xiaoduo first stuck the heaven-mend stone on Wang Lingyun's body so that his body could bear the life force. Then he used the life force in his spiritual sense space to stabilize Wang Lingyun's vitality. Then he used 1/3 of the laurel honey to strengthen his divine soul. It was not that Zhou Xiaoduo did not want to give more. It was that Wang Lingyun could only bear so much. Wang Lingyun's lifespan was about to come to an end, and that was the biggest problem. Once his lifespan was completely exhausted, his life would naturally come to an end. That was the true meaning of the heaven-mending stone. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed, When you were young, you overdrew your life potential to improve your cultivation. And more than once? Wang Lingyun was surprised. Uncle, you really have a sharp eye. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed. After that, when you found that your lifespan was about to end, you used your vitality to forcibly prolong your lifespan? Wang Lingyun was completely stunned at this time. Grandpa Zhua and the others knew about overdrawing their life potential, but they didn't dare to do so after being scolded. Because his initial dream was to break through to a higher level of cultivation regardless of the cost. He wanted to inherit his grandfather's legacy and enter the battlefield with the startling sword, hoping that the name of the god of war would not be tarnished. However, reality was exceptionally cruel. Even though his will was as firm as a boulder, his body truly did not have that kind of talent that could be cultivated. Like Wang Lingyun, who was unwilling to accept this, he secretly overdrafted himself many times and advanced all the way until he was not inferior to any of the outstanding talents of that time. But later, his true identity was discovered by the minister. He was severely reprimanded and ordered to return home. He was never allowed to set foot on the battlefield again. It was also because of this that the Wang clan existed. However, no one knew that he had used the art of dispersing vitality, condensing his life spirit, and forcibly prolong his lifespan. How did Zhou Xiaoduo know? You did it twice. The former drained your foundation, and the latter made your already broken body even more unbearable. Although you can struggle at death's door, your vitality will not be restored, and your cultivation realm will not exist. Your body will not be able to take any nourishment. Even if you get a heaven-defying elixir or a miraculous pill, you will not be able to enjoy it. Zhou Xiaoduo expressed his heartfelt sigh. Even if he used all his means to treat Wang Lingyun with his current condition, he would at most be able to maintain his life for a year. After that, there was no other way. And this lifespan was the upper limit of Wang Lingyun's art of dispersing vitality. Wang Lingyun smiled, It's okay. I know my own body's condition. With your help, I have enough time. I will definitely be able to see Grandpa and Grandma. He sighed softly. At that time my wife was still healthy, but I was already at the end of my life. In desperation, I had no choice but to use the art of dispersing vitality. I dispersed 90% of my life's art of dispersing vitality. Against heaven's will, I restored my life spirit to the divine reigning destiny, and gained an additional 5,000 years of lifespan. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with my wife, but I did not expect that. After only a few decades, my wife would suddenly die. From then on, we would be separated by life and death. Sigh. He stared blankly ahead, lost in thought. As for why Wang Lingyun's wife could die, he did not continue. But Zhou Xiaoduo understood that there must be a rather long story behind this. Uncle, Grandpa asked me to look after you. But I hope you won't be angry and don't think I'm nagging. Wang Lingyun said very carefully, in addition the things that the Wang family has done these years. I also need to take a look and confirm the situation. Speaking of the family, he finally sighed, it's really a great shame. I, as your nephew, am really ashamed. Zhou Xiaoduo had a nephew who was more than 10,000 years old. He also felt uncomfortable all over. Not to mention that this was the ancestor of the Wang family. When he heard that Wang Lingyun wanted to organize the Wang family's files, he immediately felt relieved and said, just do what you need to do. If there's anything you need to ask, just look for Li Chenglong. He's an expert in this field. And it's best to gather all the questions before asking. He's very capable, but his temper is not good. After a pause, he continued, is there anything you can't let go of in the Wang family, or do you need anything? Other things. Wang Lingyun smiled bitterly, no. Zhou Xiaoduo frowned, for example, your direct descendant. Son? Grandson? Wang Lingyun sighed, when I was in charge of the family, my children were all driven to the battlefield by me. Until now, even my great-great-grandchildren have all died 7,000 years ago. When I was in charge of the family, the Wang family was pretty good. If my children were still alive, the Wang family wouldn't have fallen to such a state today. No matter how bad the family is, how could this bunch of bastards be in charge of it? Don't think about me. Wang Lingyun was completely disheartened. I just want to do my part now. I'm not here to make any requests. If I still shamelessly make any requests, how can I face Grandpa and Grandpa Zhou? Firstly, I don't have the face to make any requests. Secondly, there's no one I want to save. Look at the actions of the Wang family in recent years. It shows that the current Wang family has long decayed to the bone. There is not a single person who is qualified to continue living. Including me, the one who started all of this, their sins are grave and unforgivable. Wang Lingyun said with tears in his eyes. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes flashed and he said, perhaps the Wang family still has some babies in swaddling clothes. Wang Lingyun shook his head decisively, no need. They say that the babies are innocent, but they were born after drinking the blood of the people and eating the flesh of the heroes. How can they be innocent? Wang Lingyun gritted his teeth and said, the Wang family. Let it be. I was muddle-headed and only knew how to immerse myself in the memories of the past, completely ignoring the affairs of the world. Otherwise, the Wang family would have long been reduced to ashes in my hands. How could I allow this bunch of bastards to tarnish the reputation of the ancestors? Zhou Xiaoduo nodded secretly. So, I'll arrange a room for you on the first floor. There's a living room, a study, and a bedroom. You can quietly read the information of the Wang family these years. In addition, if there are guests, if you want to, you can meet them or even old friends of the past. Okay. Wang Lingyun agreed immediately. Looking at Wang Lingyun holding the Jinghong sword and entering the study, the back view that was struggling to support himself, but was actually extremely lonely. With so many elixirs, it was enough to greatly improve his body, and even his current best condition. However, there was no change in the aura of a dying man. That was already within the scope of the heart, and it was not something that could be healed by elixirs. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed deeply. The few words just now had already made each other's bottom line clear. Wang Lingyun really did not have any thoughts about the current Wang family. Even he himself was a walking corpse, a living dead who only had one last thought left. The glory of the family. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed softly, is it really that heavy? Li Chenglong said softly from the side, everyone's experiences are different, and they each have their own understanding of these 4 words. It's especially heavy on Wang Lingyun probably because his grandfather is the Jinghong Heavenly King. The glory of the god of war is supreme and cannot be tarnished. In Wang Lingyun's heart, this was many times more important than the family. Even his own reputation is not worth mentioning compared to that of the god of war. That's why he felt so uncomfortable and couldn't bear it after knowing the truth. Li Chenglong sighed and said, I think if Uncle's phone call hadn't stimulated his last bit of vitality, perhaps Wang Lingyun would be lying in a coffin now. Sigh. How's your sorting of the clues? The clues are actually very clear. The only problem now is where the 15th star is. Or what method they used to activate it and their mode of action. Li Chenglong sighed. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed. Do you want to solve it in advance and take drastic measures to deal with it? Swish, this is the heavenly Tao. Moreover, there is an extremely brilliant Qi diviner behind the other party. Well, speaking of this Qi diviner, I reckon his attainment is not below mine. In fact, he is even stronger than me in terms of pure Qi diviner. Zhuoxiao's expression was somewhat heavy as he said, if it wasn't so, I would have sensed something by now. However, this person is so cautious that he doesn't want to be tainted by karma or even cut off karma. He is really amazing. Who is he? It was a pity that Li Qinglong couldn't help him on this point, and neither could his friends. Let's practice. Zhuoxiao Duo sighed. At the same time. In a cafe in Shangjing. A man and a woman, both of whom looked ordinary, were having a meeting here. Something big happened in the Wang family, the woman said. What happened? The man took a sip of tea. I don't know what's wrong with Zhuoxiao Duo. He gathered people to cause trouble in the Wang family, blackmailing them. Deliberately disgusting, and then... Chapter 1233. The woman recounted the incident in detail. The man gritted his teeth as he listened, his emotions surging. This shit stirrer. How could he do such a thing? Really? Well, only someone with no moral integrity would do such a thing. The woman frowned and sighed. The key issue now is no longer about moral integrity. The biggest problem is, Zhuoxiao's identity has been exposed. It's completely exposed to the eyes of the higher-ups. The man said, it's related to the Sky Surveyor throne, right? Is he a member of the throne's side branch? Or a descendant? The woman smiled bitterly and shook her head. Neither. Zhuoxiao Duo is actually the Sky Surveyor throne's biological son, the only son of the first wife. What? What did you say? The man could no longer maintain his composure. He stood up abruptly, almost knocking over the coffee table in front of him. The woman was already prepared for this reaction. She reached out a hand and held the coffee table firmly. Biological son? Are you serious? The man's face was instantly covered in white sweat. His eyes were filled with fear. Yes, that's right, the woman said with certainty. Looking at the man's reaction, the woman did not have the slightest intention of mocking him. This was because when she first received the news, her reaction was almost exactly the same as this man's. In fact, it was even worse than this man's. She had almost wet her pants on the spot. That remote little city actually hid the Sky Surveyor throne. This was super shocking news that would make one's eyeballs pop out. After a long time, the man was still trembling. She could not help but say, I know this news is very unexpected, but you don't have to be shocked for so long. Although she had almost wet her pants, she had not been shocked for so long. The man smiled bitterly. You don't know. He sat back in his chair in a daze. His fear was still lingering as he said, so, Zhuoxiao's father is that middle-aged man from Phoenix City, Zhuochanglu? In other words, Zhuochanglu is the Sky Surveyor throne? Yes, the woman said with certainty. The man's entire body began to tremble again. He was shivering and layers of cold sweat were dripping down his back. What's wrong with you? The woman realized that something was wrong. This reaction was clearly too much. I met him once in Phoenix City. I remember now. The man's eyes stared straight ahead. At that time, I even had thoughts of killing him. Hearing this, a layer of white sweat instantly appeared on the woman's body. Her pretty eyes widened. You wanted to kill him? His voice was hoarse and filled with disbelief. At this moment, the woman's heart was even filled with admiration. Even in his wildest dreams, he hadn't expected that this guy in front of him would have the guts to make a move against the sky inspecting minister. Do you know that with a single breath you'll be reduced to ashes? And then? After that, I don't know why, but I didn't make a move. After that, I was vexed for a long time, feeling that I had wasted an excellent opportunity. Now it seems. The man's sweat hung on the tip of his nose, sparkling. It was too frightening. It was too horrifying. It turned out that I had thought of such an awesome plan. The woman in front of him thought about that scene for a while. Although she was shocked, she couldn't help but feel that it was ridiculous. Finally, she laughed and said, Ever since I left Phoenix City until just now, I've never really admired you. But today I've decided that you'll be my idol from now on. Ching Ching. Don't make fun of me. The man smiled bitterly as he wiped his sweat. The man was Meng Qintian, and the woman was Ning Qingqing, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. The two of them were old acquaintances. Today they were old friends who empathized with each other. In the battle of the soul-washing battle with the Phoenix Vein, the Ning clan and the Meng clan were doomed eternally. The Meng clan was completely wiped out, and the Ning clan lost an entire household register. Only Meng Qintian and Ning Qingqing survived. These two people didn't really have the bloodline of the Meng clan and the Ning clan, so they were lucky enough to escape. Ning Qingqing had tried her best to find her biological father, but she couldn't find him. However, in the process of her search, she met Meng Qintian in Shangjing. Although the two of them weren't very familiar with each other in Phoenix City, and Ning Qingqing didn't have a good impression of Meng Qintian, meeting an old friend in a foreign land made them acquaintances. Especially when the two of them had a grudge against the siblings Zuoxiaoduo and Zuoxiaoyan, they naturally got together. After that, the two of them gathered all the clues and verified each other bit by bit. Plus, after the Phoenix Pulse soul-washing battle, a lot of information couldn't be hidden anymore that the two of them finally locked onto the enemy who had destroyed their families. That was Zuoxiaoduo. Now, as long as this name was mentioned, the two of them would gnash their teeth in hatred. In this way, the following matter became more and more logical. Meng Qintian successfully developed Ning Qingqing as his underling. Ning Qingqing didn't ask for anything else. She only wanted one thing, to avenge the Ning clan, to kill Zuoxiaoduo. Although her cultivation wasn't very high, and she didn't have a master to guide her after leaving Phoenix City, Ning Qingqing's gorgeous face had become her greatest weapon. A beauty with a face score of 97 and above, how much destructive power could she create? It was really unimaginable. If Ning Qingqing was just an ordinary person, it would be fine. This was because ordinary people couldn't withstand the conquest of cultivators. However, Ning Qingqing's talent was a genuine genius. She just lacked the opportunity to go further. Since reuniting with Meng Qintian, her cultivation had improved very quickly. Now, she was already at the cloud transformation realm. This was already a very fast and shocking increase in cultivation. After all, not everyone could compare with the people in Zuoxiaoduo's team. In fact, strictly speaking, Ning Qingqing was 97 astral souls. She had a purine physique. In terms of talent, she was even above Wanli Xiu, Gao Xiu, Erduga Yener and Zhen Piapiao. In addition, Ning Qingqing came from a big family. She had a natural, graceful and luxurious temperament. Dealing with some martial artist men was just too easy. As long as there was a motive, Ning Qingqing would never fail. She would wander among these men to obtain the information she wanted and obtain the things she wanted. However, in the end, she would be able to maintain her purity and not let anyone take advantage of her. She would also be able to let every man feel that this girl had fallen in love with them. This required a very high EQ, a very high IQ, a very high appearance and a very high skill. It could only be achieved by combining all these factors together. Looking at Zuoxiaoduo's team, even Gao Xiao, who was also known for her EQ, might not be able to achieve this. This was because Gao Xiao, disdained to deal with men. However, to Ning Qingqing it was not a problem at all. She was like a fish in water. This time, dealing with Zuoxiaoduo and creating the Heavenly Tao formation, Ning Qingqing was even more devoted to it. She wanted to eliminate this great enemy who had ruined the first half of her life. The biggest problem now is that the Wang family has already regretted it. After knowing Zuoxiaoduo's true identity, even if they were given 100 guts, they would not dare to touch Zuoxiaoduo. Ning Qingqing said, now the other allied families of the Wang family are also anxious. Not to mention killing Zuoxiaoduo, they even want to kneel in front of Zuoxiaoduo's door. This is extremely disadvantageous to our plan. Ning Qingqing was very worried. At this point, can they stop just because they want to? Meng Qintian sneered, it's not up to them anymore. What do you mean? The dragons are about to seize the veins. The veins of the earth do not care if you regret it or not. When it's time to erupt, it will erupt. And the veins of the heavens will not care if they regret it. The Heavenly Tao formation will not care even if they regret it. Since the formation has been formed, they will enter this formation no matter what. Meng Qintian said lightly, it's not up to them anymore. The head of the Wang family wants to see the master again, Ning Qingqing said. Refuse. Just say. Meng Qintian stopped halfway and said, let me ask my uncle first. See how to. Okay. That night, Wang Han received a letter. It was a letter from the master. There was no signature, just a few very ordinary sentences. Brave warriors are reborn from death. Phoenixes are glorious because of nirvana. Aristocratic families rise through crisis. Heroes can only stand out in troubled times. Today there are great changes. The 6 continents are about to return. Wherever the sun shines there will be a reshuffle. The great waves wash away the sand. This is the time. There is no way out. There is only a slim chance of survival. The mysteries of heaven are hard to predict. The great Tao is 50, and the heavens have 49. Whether or not the future can be seen depends on this. If you retreat, you will be doomed. If you advance, you will die. You can choose. For those outside the world, the mysteries of heaven are not something I can predict. Today this book is out. The only thing left is to cherish it. Perhaps there will be a day when I can drink with the descendants of the Master. Just a few short sentences. It was a thin sheet of paper. Wang Han and Wang Zhong stared at the handwriting on the paper, only to feel their fingers tighten. Both of them were short of breath and their faces were gloomy. Wang Zhong, if we retreat now, what will happen to the Wang family? Wang Han seemed to be asking Wang Zhong, but it also seemed like he was asking himself. The Wang family will cease to exist. Perhaps we can preserve some of the children. But above 1 meter, regardless of gender, they will all be doomed, Wang Zhong answered quickly. This was an obvious fact. It was already the honor of the god of war to preserve a few children to continue the bloodline. Otherwise, even the children would be eradicated. What if we advance further? Wang Han's eyes burned with madness. If we lose, we will be doomed. Perhaps we can preserve a few children. It is the blessing of the ancestors. But the death of the others can also be foreseen. Wang Zhong said. What if we win? Wang Han asked. Even if we win, we will have to hold on until the 6 continents return. At that time, the world will be in chaos. Countless masters will flock here. Even the minister may not be able to resist. Wang Zhong said lightly, even the masters who are reigning now will suffer heavy casualties in the first wave. Chapter 1234. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Neither choice was right, so what choice should he make? Wang Han stared at Wang Zhong and Wang Zhong stared back at his elder brother. Both of them looked at each other and saw the despair in each other's eyes slowly brighten up. That was enough. There was no need to explain further. Only the two of them knew clearly in their hearts. The situation was obvious now. The only chance for the Wang clan to survive was the dragons fighting over the veins. As long as the Wang clan, no, it didn't have to be the Wang clan. As long as someone or some force killed Zhou Xiaoduo and the dragons fighting over the veins, then they only needed to hold on for a few days or hide for a few days, and the situation would be reversed. Because after the dragons fighting over the veins ended, a large amount of luck would be taken by the Wang clan, and the Wang clan's luck would increase dramatically. And the remaining luck would belong to the demon star, which would cause the noble spirit to soar to the stars. With such an obvious beacon navigation, the demon clan would return soon. Even if they didn't return with the continent, those peak experts would set foot on the continent before the continent returned. And when that time came, the heaven-inspecting minister couple wouldn't be able to care about the Wang clan. If this hope could come true, then the Wang family would be able to escape death from that point in time, and have a chance to live again. In summary, there was only one prerequisite. The Wang clan had to be able to hold on until the experts of the demon clan or other races set foot on the continent. Wang Han gritted his teeth and clutched the piece of paper tightly. He muttered, victory or defeat, advancing or retreating, the result is the same. So why not advance? Choose the only way to survive. After I die, even if the flood overflows, as long as I can survive, what can't I do? Wang Zhong sighed softly. Now there was really no way to advance or retreat. Life and death were in a dilemma. He had already done everything he could. Now he could only entrust everything to others. At this moment, Wang Han suddenly felt a burning sensation in his palm. That piece of paper had actually started to burn silently. In the blink of an eye, there was only a handful of ash in his hand and nothing else. Wang Han looked at the ashes in his hand and suddenly came to a realization. He said in a deep voice, "This is probably the great master reminding us that although some things have been done, as long as there are no traces left behind, everything is still possible. It's better to be known than seen by others." Wang Zhong smiled bitterly and said, "Perhaps this master just doesn't want to leave behind any traces related to him. That's all. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. Every step is a game of chess. It all depends on how you interpret it. Follow your heart. Everything is like that." Wang Han patted Wang Zhong's shoulder. "Second brother, I know you've made some arrangements, but now that we're at a dead end, it's good to have another choice. I'm going to give it a try." Wang Zhong sighed and said, "If there are no accidents, regardless of success or failure, both of us will die." Wang Han lowered his head and said, How can I not know what you're talking about? But even if we stop now, do you think we won't die? We'll still die. The two brothers looked at each other and saw the burning flames in each other's eyes. They said almost in unison, then let's give it a try. After I die, I don't care about the flood. As long as I can live, there's nothing I can't do. Wang Zhong walked out of the study. He hadn't felt his blood boil for a long time, but at this moment, it surged through his body. Then let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. In life, who wouldn't give it a try? How could one survive if they didn't give it a try? Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew. His heated brain slowly cooled down. When he returned to his study, he was suddenly stunned. He stood there in a daze. He was thinking about this matter, the whole thing, the whole process. For a moment, he was puzzled and confused. Why was it like this? Give it a try? Give it a try? Not to mention what he was going to give it a try. So what if he succeeded? Even if he succeeded, he would still go down in infamy for thousands of years? There seemed to be something wrong with this. Because before today he clearly had the intention to retreat. Even if he would be torn apart by 5 horses if he turned back and admitted his guilt, he still turned back. Turn back and be saved. Since it was the last moment and he would die no matter what, as long as he turned back, he might as well do his best to protect the reputation of his ancestor, the god of war. It was the greatest virtue to know one's mistakes and to face death calmly. Finally, his surname was Wang and he was once bathed in the glory of the god of war. But why did he make up his mind to give it a try just now? What? He turned back and wanted to go back to find Wang Han. This decision didn't seem right. But when he was about to go out, he suddenly felt dizzy. Maybe. It's not a bad thing to give it a try. Anyway, there's no worse result than now. Wang Zhong was in a daze for a moment and said blankly. 2 days later. Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts and the Martial Arts Department released the list of people who would enter the Dragon's fight for the heritage this time. Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts. Zhua Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong, Xiang Chong, Xiang Bing, Gao Qiaoer, Zhen Piapiao, Pai Yibao, Yuyena. Dragon Soul High Martial Arts. Li Zhangming. Jade Sun High Martial Arts. Yu Moyan Duguyen. High Martial Arts. Long Yuxing Wanli Xiao Zhou Yinqing. 9 Heavens Pavilion. Zhua Xiaonian. Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts. Lan Bingrui Qin Xiaotian Qing Qingning, Meng Yuanhang Kong Yunshang Wang Zilong Wang Ziyun Jun Haoran Jun Zhangtai Jun Anmin, Wan Shuishan. In addition to the other miscellaneous places, there were a total of 50 people. And this list was quite different from the list of 30 people announced previously. But none of those families dared to hide their names. All of them gave up on the hidden rules of this competition. Everything was decided based on the true strength of the students. Therefore, in terms of transparency, this year's Dragon Scramble for Heritage could be said to be the fairest Dragon Scramble for Heritage in the past 3,000 years. In terms of the strength of the students, it was also a year of dazzling stars and gathering geniuses. In the past, the cultivation of the students in this year's Dragon Scramble for Heritage was basically the peak of the students' cultivation, and most of them were at the early stage of the Profound Realm. But this time, not only were there students in the Skysoar realm, there were even a terrifying 21 of them. Such an explosive number of geniuses was really unprecedented. Among them, the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts was the most dazzling and eye-catching. When Xingtian Yi Changqing and the others saw the list, they were almost crying tears of joy. Based on their best judgment, the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts could only have 1 or 2 people enter the Dragon Scramble for Heritage. They didn't expect so many people to be selected. Looking at the names on the list, other than the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts, there were also Skysoar Realm cultivators. How could the higher-ups of the school not be excited? Yi Changqing's tears flowed down his face. With this year's glory, the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts could really be hidden dragons that could soar into the sky and look down on the world. As this year's headmaster and teacher, Yi Changqing and Wen Xingtian couldn't hold back their excitement. But the two of them still pretended to be indifferent and solemn as they accepted the congratulations of the crowd. Their expressions didn't seem to be very happy. They acted very steady, very dignified, and very indifferent. Everyone praised them one after another, as expected of the teachers and headmasters of so many genius students. Then the two of them calmly left the school and arrived at Yi Changqing's villa. They quickened their pace and entered the villa's secret room. When Xingtian let out a loud roar and jumped into the arena. He roared, "Yi Changqing, let's fight." Yi Changqing impatiently rushed forward. "I'm in a good mood today. I'm going to beat you to death. I'm the one who's going to beat you to death." The two of them excitedly and crazily fought each other. they didn't dodge at all. Their fists landed on each other's flesh. This kind of battle lasted for an entire afternoon. If they couldn't vent to their heart's content during such a joyous occasion, it would really be unbearable. In the end, Yi Changqing rode on top of Wen Xingtian and pressed down on the mud like Wen Xingtian. He punched him again and asked, "Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy?" Wen Xingtian was beaten up until his nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He shouted excitedly, "Happy! Happy! Continue, use all your strength." Vice Principal Liu and Xiang Quangren, who had rushed over after hearing the news, stood at the door. Their faces were cold as they listened to this strange conversation. They couldn't watch it anymore. They really couldn't watch it anymore. Jade Sun High Martial Arts and Dragon Soul High Martial Arts were also in high spirits. This was also the first time since the establishment of their schools that a student had entered the ranks of the dragons fighting for the heritage. The joy of these two schools was equally crazy. This was a moment that made history. As for Zhuoxiao Duo and the others' alma maters, such as Garrison First High School, Water City First High School, and Phoenix City Second High School, colorful flags fluttered and firecrackers sounded. Hu Ruoyun was so excited that tears streamed down her face. As soon as she received the news, she brought the offerings and went to He Yuanyue's grave with Li Changjiang. At this time, Sun Fengho and Jiang Zhangbin were one step ahead of the two of them. "Old principal, your wish has come true. And it's more than fulfilled." In the newspaper and screenshots, the others were all wearing the formal school uniforms of their respective high martial arts schools. Only Zhuoxiao Duo and the others from Phoenix City Second High School were wearing the Snow White Hidden Dragon High School's martial arts robes. However, under the Hidden Dragon High School's emblem, there were not only the red embroidered words of Hidden Dragon High School, but there were also a few people who wrote the words themselves. Phoenix City Second High. The words were the same size as the 4 words of Hidden Dragon High School. Hu Ruoyun stroked the 5 words on the photo. Her heart was filled with mixed feelings and tears fell like rain. The principal of Water City First High School, Gu Qianfan, was holding a big banquet to celebrate. He was celebrating while watching the news and newspapers with a smile on his face. However, when he saw the eye-catching handwriting on Zhuoxiao Duo and the others' uniforms, he suddenly fell silent. His old face instantly turned red. He said shyly, "Let's go." Everyone was dumbfounded. It was supposed to be a good day to drink until they were satisfied. How could it be? Zhou Yunqing immediately understood the situation and his face was full of shame. He bowed and apologized, "Old principal, I'm sorry. I really forgot. I was too excited." Gu Qianfan sighed. "It's not your fault. I was envious of He Yuanyue." Gu Qianfan may be better than He Yuanyue in terms of cultivation, martial arts, and connections, but when it comes to educating people and educating them, compared to Principal He, there's a world of difference. I'm not as good as her. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.